The polls in Laclede County have closed, and welcome to Lebanon Now's coverage of primary night in Missouri. I'm David Millsap, along with Taylor Howe. We'll be with you this evening to provide you with comprehensive and exclusive coverage of races that impact Laclede County, the surrounding areas, and the state of Missouri. And Taylor, I suspect we're going to see a larger than normal turnout for a primary race statewide, probably fueled by the Amendments 4 and 5, but contested races here in Laclede County.
Yeah, the Secretary of State's office actually put out, and it was reported in a St. Louis news outlet, that they're expecting around 1.4 million votes cast today or for this election. And just to kind of put that into perspective, David, just a little bit over 1 million votes were cast in the last primary election. And in that primary, there was a governor's race and there was also a U.S. Senate race. So they are expecting a very high turnout, despite the fact that there are no high-level ticket items, other than some congressional races that we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the races that are going along statewide. We'll also talk about some local races, not only in Laclede County, but those that are going on in some neighboring counties as well. It could be a long night in some ways because the races that we're going to focus on are multi-county races, including the two contested races here in Laclede County in District 142. Dr. Jeff Brown and Royce Tuck are seeking the Republican nomination to move on in the election process in November. That seat is currently held by Jeff Knight, who has term limited out. That is a multi-county race. District 142 will make up Laclede County, parts of it, all of Dallas County, part of Camden County. And then also up for grabs is what has become a hotly contested primary election in the Senate seat for District 16. There are 4 candidates for that position: former State Representative Hannah Kelly from Wright County, current State Representative Bill Hardwick from Pulaski County, Don Mayhew is a state rep from Pulaski County as well, and then Philip Lohman from Phelps County, kind of the outlier in the
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of the candidates about that, and they believe that as well. And you can see that from your mailbox, most likely. You can also see that from where the candidates have been spending a lot of their time. As far as Hardwick, Mayhew, and Kelly, they have been in Laclede County a lot, especially over the last month. If you've gone to any sort of large event, you've seen at least one of them. So Laclede County is sort of where the hinge point is for that race, and I'm excited to see what the people of Laclede County think.
I want to go back to just what you said about that race and the mailers, and I told you before we went on the air, I think it's the first time in probably about a month and a half that I didn't get a mailer today in that race in Senate seat 16. That really has become a hotly contested race. I've seen television ads, I've seen stuff on Facebook, I've seen things on YouTube. Even on some of the smart TVs, you could be watching a Cardinal baseball game and you're seeing those things. People have dumped a lot of money into that campaign.
Yeah, I was talking to someone today about the mailers, actually, and they said just picture every time you pull one of those mailers out of the mailbox, it's about $3. And like you said, too, many days you're pulling out 6, 7 mailers. So tons of money being put into this. It's mostly through PACs. There's not a lot of mailers going out on behalf of the candidates themselves, which could be good or bad. We're actually very interested in what our viewers tonight think about that. And so as the comment section goes live on tonight's broadcast, we do want to hear from you. And our first question that we'll post to you is, what do you all think about the mailers? Does that affect the way that you vote, for the positive, for the negative? Same with the ads. Is that something that you're tired of seeing so much mud being slung? Or do you think that that's nice to have some of the information about maybe some of those negative things that you'd like to know before you would cast your vote for someone?
There are Democrats that are also running in uncontested races. The winner of the Republican nomination for Senate seat 16 will face Democrat Virginia Stabbs, who is from Richmond. As the mayor of Lebanon is seeking the Democratic nomination for District 142 without opposition, he would face either Dr. Jeff Brown or Royce Tuck in the November general election. Melissa Schmidt, who is the representative for Laclede County in the 141st District, has no opposition. The primary race is a Republican. She will face Democrat Mike Swafford from Mountain Grove in the general election in November. So you may get a respite from all the political ads, but it's all going to heat back up. come probably in September through November.
Yeah, we'll see a return to kind of the traditional timeline of once we hit Labor Day, it'll ramp back up again. But again, primary night, nobody gets a job, right? You could lose your job on primary night, but nobody gets a job. And so it's going to be heated as we move back into the fall. But you're right, we'll get at least a little bit of a break, and our postman can maybe take a little bit of a break too.
Talk about races in Laclede County. We talked about the two that are being contested. There are current office holders in Laclede County that were on the ballot when you went to vote this afternoon or this morning. They will all be reelected. They had no opposition in the primary. They have no opposition in November. Laclede County, that is not exactly untypical. That is often the case in Laclede County where you have uncontested races.
Yeah, without the presence of term limits, generally a contested race means that someone doesn't think that someone's doing such a good job. So it is a good sign for Laclede County and just for the health of Laclede County that nobody thought anybody in the courthouse necessarily needed to be opposed, that things were running fairly smoothly, and that the people of Laclede County want that to continue.
And there is a statewide race for state auditor. It's expected that Scott Fitzpatrick will be reelected tonight in the Republican primary. He does have an opponent, Gerald Winstrand. Two Democrats are running for state auditor. Greg Upchurch, who has run twice unsuccessfully for a House position out of the St. Louis area, is on a ballot. The other Democrat is Quentin Wilson, who held the cabinet positions both with Mel Carnahan. Was governor. He was a Democrat, and a position was held in the cabinet as well for Bob Holden. So Fitzpatrick will have a Democrat opponent come November. That's the only real statewide executive office available now.
It's the one off-year election that Missouri has. Everything else is going to be taking place during the presidential cycle, and so it's what we have to look at as far as statewide races go. But like we talked about a little bit before, we do have some congressional races that are going to be pretty interesting to follow tonight. We have a new congressional district that's been drawn this year that the Secretary of State just came out today and said is going to be the official district on the ballot in November, and that is the 5th District of Missouri. The two main contenders for the Republican primary there are going to be Taylor Burks and Rick Bratton. Rick Bratton just last night getting an endorsement from President Trump. So we will see if that pushes him over the edge to be able to take that, in which case he'll be running against Emmanuel Cleaver, the longtime congressman from Kansas City. There's also the Missouri 1st Congressional District, where Cori Bush, the former congresswoman from that district, is taking on her challenger, who's the current congressman from that district, Wesley Bell. So he beat her 2 years ago in the primary and was able to take up that congressional seat. She was kind of famously a member of the squad. She was defeated and is trying to take that seat back. There's also the Missouri 6th Congressional District, which is represented currently by Sam Graves, who kind of late in the cycle decided that he was going to retire. So we have a contested race there as well. We're going to be bringing you a lot of results tonight that are local, but we do want to keep our finger on the pulse for the state as those results come in as well.
You know, this has some effect on the midterm elections that will happen in November, and right now, the Democratic Party nationally believes they will have the ability to take the House of Representatives. They don't think they'll take the Senate, but they do think they'll flip the House. So that election between either Bratton or Burks and Emmanuel Cleaver becomes really one to focus on in Missouri.
Yeah, I really do think that that's going to be one that the nation pays a great deal of attention to in November. And so that's why we want to touch on it a little bit tonight, is to see what that's going to stack up like. These redrawn districts that are in Missouri and several other states have been sort of a hotly contested issue, but we're not covering it as a hot contest in that way. We're just trying to bring you results to see what the people of Missouri are going to do with the districts that we have.
And speaking of Emmanuel Cleaver, I think he's in his looking for his 12th term in the Congress, and the former mayor of the city of Kansas City, his district was redrawn. Mark Alford, who is the representative for Laclede County out of District 4. He's up for re-election. More likely than not, he's going to win that. He has two opponents. 7 Democrats want to run against him in November. Probably an uphill battle, but it's something to watch.
And those races where you have so many people people running are just fascinating to pay attention to, because when you consider 7 people running, you need such a small percentage to get you over the line. Missouri is not a state that requires you to reach that 50% plus one. It's just whoever gets the most votes, no matter how many people are running. And so it will be very interesting. There is a candidate in the Democratic primary for our congressional district that kind of aligns with the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. So it'll be interesting to see if that's who Mark Alford is going to be running against for our congressional district.
Which is interesting because there's a Senate race in Michigan, and a lot of people are going to be paid attention to because of the Socialist Party, basically the Democrat Socialist Party arm of the Democratic Party, if I said that right, is touting, and they think they have an opportunity to win there. So we're starting to see this huge shift in the Democratic Party, and it's interesting if you look at the polls, even Democrats are very leery of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a big change, and these DSA candidates are really going further than previous far left candidates have in the past, and so. You're right. There are Democrats who are leery of that. Obviously, the Republicans are very leery of that. In some cases, maybe leery, but they'd love to run against them.
Right, right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So I want to refocus back to the local things that we'll be looking at, and we talked about the number of people coming out to vote, and I talked to people who said that their polls were very busy when they went to vote here in Laclede County. I think a lot of that not only driven up by the 2 contested races that we have for 142 in District 16 Senate seat, but it is Amendment 4 and 5, and that has been a hot button topic since the very beginning of all this.
Yeah, Amendment 4 dealing primarily with initiative petition reform, the ability of people to put their own issues on the ballot. And then, of course, Amendment 5, the phase out of the income tax in order to eventually put in some sort of sales tax. We're not exactly sure what that system would look like, but we do know that the income tax would phase out and that the legislature would be tasked with coming up with something. That's been an interesting issue to see the commercials on, to just hear what people are thinking out on the street. I'm not sure which way that'll go. I'm not sure that whichever way it does go will be the thing that made the most sense if you thought about it beforehand. I've heard some people say that if it passes, that it will be the cities who pass those things. And to me, that's not exactly how I would have imagined it going, but it'll be very interesting to see what results come in, and then how they break down.
And it's interesting because one of the things I was going to ask you before you said that was what's your gut feeling on 4 and 5. I think 4 is tough to call. Based just on feedback that I've got from the public generally, is that 5 is going to have an uphill battle.
I think that it will. That one in particular is what I've heard many people say, that if it passes, it will be from the city. It's also something just in a social media age that has been so interesting. I had a buddy text me and he said, that seems like it's going to pass with flying colors. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, everything I see when I get on Facebook is pro 5. And I was pretty shocked by that because that's not what my algorithm feeds me. But it's been kind of an eye-opening experience to hear different people, why they think what they think, and even to some extent what they're being fed that makes them think that way. Really, it's been a fascinating cycle, and we've drawn the attention of the nation in a lot of these races to see what we'll do. So it will also be interesting moving forward, David, the methods that bring about certain results tonight, how those will be repeated. So again, back to those mailers. If those mailers are effective, your mailbox is going to be full every election cycle. If those nasty ads are effective, they're going to keep pushing them out. And so it just is so fun to watch as the results come in, what methods get stuck with.
You know, again, an interesting point from you when you talk about negative ads. And in Laclede County, people are really turned off by that. When the first negative ad came out in the race for Senate District Seat 16, which targeted Hannah Kelly, the first negative one that I got in my mailbox, I remember getting phone calls from people who were really put off by that. And then those things continued with a number of candidates being targeted. So Hannah Kelly wasn't the only one that was targeted. I guess I would tell you, and see if you would agree, we may be turned off by that, but somewhere down the line, these political pundits who know the game of politics say these things work.
Yeah, and not only do they they may not work in making you think that, candidate A kicks puppies and candidate B loves cotton candy, but they do make you stop and say, well, that information has to come from somewhere. And if you're not familiar with the process, you're not familiar maybe with the jobs that they've had in the past, you may say that's accurate information in some way, shape, or form. And so, kind of to your point, David, it's so important when you get things like that to do your research and find out, okay, so somebody missed however many votes in a certain time period. Well, how many votes are cast in a certain time period? If they missed 50 votes and 2,000 are cast, that to me is a little bit more forgivable than if 60 votes are cast and they miss 50 of them. But I think that we're just so inundated with information so much that they do have an effect because you just don't know where to turn for accuracy. Lebanon Now is where you should turn for accuracy.
And listening to Taylor Howe
Yeah.
try to break all of this down for you. The other part of this is that we talked a little bit about the money and the PAC money, that the PACs put out a lot of this information. And I'm not sure how much of that the candidate knows about prior to them attacking their opponent.
Yeah, so just as sort of a breakdown of how PACs work in the state of Missouri, candidates are allowed to organize a PAC, candidates are allowed to fundraise for a PAC, but they are not allowed to collude with a PAC as to what that money is spent on or how it's spent. So the ads that go out may or may not have been funded by the candidates going out and raising money, but they are not guided by the candidates. So in our Senate race, for example, the negative ads against Hannah Kelly and Bill Hardwick are not guided by Hannah Kelly and Bill Hardwick. And to me, that makes them just a little bit more distasteful because there's nobody who has to stand behind this. There's no one who has to say, my opponent kicks puppies. There's someone who can just say, I'm going to raise a bunch of money and I want you to say that. And you is the XYZ PAC. Missouri was the last state in the nation that allowed candidates to raise as much money for their own candidate committees as they wanted to. If you wanted to give $100,000, David, to candidate X, you could. And then candidate X would make their own negative ad and they'd stand behind their words. I don't know that the system that we've traded for is better. I don't know that it's worse. But it is just an interesting thing that we have so much, again, just inundated with this negative information and nobody really responsible for it.
I think what I've found interesting too is the evolution of some of these races, because we're all of a sudden seeing big money spent for Senate seats at the state capitol in districts like 16 that represents a lot of rural Missouri, Laclede County, Wright County, Pulaski County, Phelps, Marys, and Dent County, very rural counties, but yet people are bringing in big money in these races.
Yeah, and you have to remember the state Senate is 34 members. One member has the ability to halt or push legislation in a very major way. And so in that regard, it does make sense that so much money is being pushed out there. But again, that money is going to who and coming from where? There just used to be a day where you had to stand behind your own words and say, this is who I'm raising my money from, and this is what I believe to be true.
There are other races in other counties that kind of have a local flavor for us. Mm-hmm. They have some people that have had either businesses here in Laclede County or have come from Laclede County. Other races that will get our attention tonight as we go along. In Camden County, there's a heated race for prosecutor that does have a tie to Laclede County. Lynn Brand, whose law office is here in Lebanon, is trying to unseat current prosecutor Rochelle Grosner. Senate race, District 20 should shake up the Senate leadership. If Lori Rook, who owns Elder Law, who has an office in Lebanon, upsets Curtis Trent. Trent is seeking a second term as senator. He's running not only in that race, but he's up for majority floor leader and likely will get that position if he wins tonight. So let's talk a little bit. I don't know how much you've kept up with the prosecutor race over in Camden County, but that has been a very heated campaign. Brand has been able to get the law enforcement people behind her. She got several endorsements from local law enforcement as well as statewide law enforcement to unseat the current prosecutor. It's rare in rural counties, and Camden County being rural, maybe not as much in feeling as Laclede County, to have those types of races get as big as it has been.
Yeah, Camden County's been an interesting place for a couple of years. You don't want to look too directly at it, kind of like the sun. But there have been a lot of interesting things going on in Camden County. That prosecutor's race, she would, I guess, be seeking to be the third prosecutor in about 4 years.
Right.
So that has, maybe you wouldn't call that a revolving door, but there's been a lot going on in that courthouse. Also, Camden County, or encompassing parts of Camden County, would be that 6th Senate District, which has several people running in it. Let me pull up those names here real quick. We've got Jake Vogel, Derek Spicer, Lisa Thomas, Amber Buckles, Rudy Veet, and Ike Skelton, all running for the Republican nomination for Senate District 6. And that's one that we're going to look at a little bit because, again, being as close as it is to Laclede County, maybe some of our viewers have been seeing some of the ads that have been coming out for that, either on Facebook or on TV. That's one that we're going to be watching fairly closely because, again, with as many people running, it's anybody's race. It doesn't come down to dollars and cents. It comes down to who can get, 15% plus one.
And Ike Skelton is a former Laclede County resident. In fact, he was really one of those that was behind the Tea Party in the early 90s. He became the presiding commissioner over in Camden County, and he is controversial to say the least, but he's one of those 6 that are on the ballot over there. Let's talk a little bit about one that I talked about with Curtis Trent and with Lori Rook. That is an interesting race. There has been a lot of money thrown in that race, and that one, too, has been very much contested.
Yeah. Just watching the ads on TV when you're waking up in the morning trying to watch the local news. Lori Rook running for lieutenant governor in the last primary election. We're going to see how much of a following she was able to build for herself as she ran for that lieutenant governor position, and if it's going to be enough to potentially unseat a majority leader. Like you said, that would be a major upset in the political realm, but it would be a major accomplishment for Lori Rook if she was able to do that.
And that would really shake up the Republican Party in trying to figure out how they reposition themselves for leadership on the Senate side. You had the opportunity this week to go over and talk to former Governor Mike Parson. That interview is going to be coming up a little bit, but you had a really good sit down with him.
Yeah, Governor Parson is just a really down-home guy. You'll see in the interview, I came suit and tie, kind of dressed to impress, and he was out working. He was in a cap, he was in a shirt, he was ready to go. But he was very gracious to sit down with us, hosting us at the 57 Foundation, which is his foundation that he his brother is actually running in his post-governor's time. It's a really neat foundation. We were able to take a tour of the space before we actually sat down and interviewed. And again, he was just a really gracious host and gracious to sit down and give us some answers as to what his time as governor was like and kind of his thoughts on leadership.
We'll talk a little bit about Mike Parson and Taylor's interview. We also want to tell you thanks to the folks over at Jude's who've provided coffee for us during this campaign coverage that we'll have. And we'll be here until we have at least a decisive idea of who has won the races that we're going to be focused on during the day tonight. So as we go along with this, I want to go back to Mike Parson just a little bit as we get ready for that interview to play here on Lebanon Now. There's a guy that really started at the very grassroots part of politics, being elected sheriff, worked to representative to senator to lieutenant governor to governor. He has been through the wars of the political process.
Those are the types of people, honestly, David, that fascinate me the most, is the guy who's really been at every level. They're the stars that kind of make a national splash right out of the gate, and they are immediately a U.S. senator, and then they, run for the highest office in the land or whatever. But the guy who starts in the courthouse, moves his way up to the state capitol, and as I say in the interview, moves all the way up to the big office. They really do have a lot to give to the people who come up behind them. They have a lot to give to their constituents as they're serving, and it's because they know what other people are dealing with. That as governor, he knows what it's like to be in the House. As governor, he knows what it's like to work in the courthouse and put together a budget. So he's not coming into it a political hotshot, but without any actual calluses. And that's really what I would say Parson offered the most, is some political callus.
And when you watch him, have been around him, and certainly I've not had that opportunity as much as you have, there is just a genuineness about him that here's a guy that understands. I came from Polk County, Hickory County, and it really is somebody that you can sit down and talk to and have a conversation with that doesn't put on any airs.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just a down-home guy. And I think that he really was able to take that to the governor's office. Something that he said, and I don't remember if it was in the interview, but he said, when I went up there, my brother said, you went up with your head held high, come back with your head held high. And that's just good older brother advice to, mind yourself. Remember, mom and dad are watching, and do your best. There wasn't a whole lot of pretense about that. That is everyday, normal human being stuff. And again, it just makes him a fascinating character. So we'll have some clips of that interview coming up, and then, we'll move back to you.
And don't forget that we will be back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with Millsap in the Morning. We'll kind of go over the results of what you see tonight and talk about those things at length at Millsap in the Morning at 9 o'clock live right here on Lebanon Now. We'll be back with more.
I want something fun. Still professional. Something professionally fun.
It's okay to be particular.
Not too medium. More rare than medium, but still medium rare.
Especially with your insurance.
We need policies that
help cover your house, cars, boat, and provide peace of mind.
Yes.
Exactly.
With Shelter Insurance, our agents help you design a plan that's particular to you for insurance that fits just right. Find a Shelter agent near you.
See Shelter Agent Kim Breeden or affiliate agents Crystal Thompson and Stephanie Esther in Lebanon today.
If you've never been to June and Beyond, let me tell you something. It's not just a boutique, it's an experience. This is the kind of place you can grab your girlfriends for a fun afternoon, try on half of the store, laugh a little too loud, and walk out feeling amazing. But it's also the place you can bring your mom, or your daughter, or all three of you together. Because June and Beyond truly has something for everyone.
Injured on the job? Call Dan the Man. Hiring the wrong attorney could cost you everything. Don't risk your future. Call Dan the Man at Deputy in Mizell.
Now, as the results are being tallied for tonight, we want to bring you a little bit of our interview with Governor Mike Parson. We were hosted by Governor Parson at the 57 Foundation in Bolivar, and we have some footage that we would like to start with of a walk around of the 57 Foundation. And so as we were setting up for the interview, he kind of gave us the background as to what the purpose of the space was, first and foremost. And he said, when I got out of the governor's office, I talked to some other former governors, and you have so much memorabilia, gifts that you're given. And unlike the presidents who build a library that the National Archives can send things to, he said, I was asking these other governors what they did, and he said storage units was the primary answer. And he said it's a shame, because this isn't just Mike Parson history. This is Missouri State history. And so as we walked around, he gave us a tour of some of those pieces of history, both hanging on the walls, hanging over the mantle. You can see some knives that he was given. And right over the knives were some swords that were really neat. A cavalry officer, Missouri National Guard cavalry officer. Display case just full of different things, guns, again, knives.
Well, Buffalo had one over there, and that knife brought $3,000.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was crazy. There was none of them that got less than $1,000.
That's wild. That's awesome.
I mean, it's like the sand here in this, that's from Normandy, the beach in Normandy.
Wow.
When we were over there. The salt from the Dead Sea when we were in Israel over there.
You kind of revitalized the business office with Israel, right?
Yeah. And then that's the shell. There's a video that shows some highlights of my career, but that's the shell that came out of the cannon when I was sworn in. They fire a cannon, the B-2 flies over, and they fire the cannon. That's the casing from it.
Wow.
I'll tell you a little bit, a couple of pieces, then we'll get to work. This piece here is probably one of the more important pieces in the whole building, to me, personally. So when I was lieutenant governor, I went to Hawaii, to the Pearl Harbor. So this is the USS Missouri nuclear submarine. And this is the USS Missouri battleship, the one that's decommissioned where you go over there, right? So I go over there and I meet Captain Howe, and he wants to show me the sub. So we actually went out, dove in the Pacific, did a couple of dives out there and stuff. And just got to be friends. I mean, it was just like awesome to be able to do it. So then I come back and then everything kind of changes and I become governor. So he calls my office, calls the staff and says, hey, I want you guys to fly the Missouri flag above the state capitol, and I want you to send it to me, but I don't want you to tell the governor you're doing it.
Okay.
So he does. So they fly it over the capitol. He then takes it over and flies it over the USS Missouri nuclear submarine for a week, and then he takes it over to the USS Missouri battleship.
Oh my gosh.
And does it for a week. But the flag's not the most important thing. It's the wood.
Okay.
This is teak wood.
Okay.
This is off the deck of the USS Missouri battleship where the Japanese stood and surrendered.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
pieces of the deck.
Oh my gosh.
That they're able to do that. So needless to say, that was pretty special to be able to do that. So, and especially by serving in the service and everything, but you know, that's just one of the things that we do.
That's amazing.
We help with the USS Missouri battleship because it's named after us, like to help maintenance on it and help their museum and stuff for tourism and stuff that we do. But yeah, that's what that deck's off of.
That's amazing.
So I mean, it's just like, it just blew me away when he gave it to me. The other little piece here is, like I said, when you come over sometime, I'll give you the whole nickel tour. But that's a piece of wood for the dreaming tree. So Walt did.
So what he's pointing out to me here is a piece of bark from a tree that Walt Disney would sit under and sketch. And what was important about that is his dad did not care for his sketching. Really tried to.
Did not like him doing that at all. He was totally against sketching and drawing, and he thought it was a waste of time, and would really get on to him and told him he needed to get a real job. But that was the tree that he would always go out there and he'd draw and sit on. That tree blew over, lightning hit it or something. But on the 200th anniversary of Missouri, the people of Marceline kept pieces of that tree, bark and the wood of it, and they'd give it to dignitaries, and they'd give that to me for the 200th celebration of Missouri.
Wow.
So that's a pretty cool piece to be able to. So, like I said, everything in here has a meaning to it. You know.
Got to meet Dolly.
Yeah. Dolly's pretty cool. She's a nice lady. So I-70, not sure we did that. Was a big deal. That'll never be done again either. I mean, when you think about 6 lanes on I-70, nobody's going to be able to do that again. I mean, 3 Supreme Court judges.
First woman.
And one.
First
and
woman
first
chief.
women majority. I mean, and it's just a 1.5 statewide. It's just unreal. I mean, just all those things happen. And I'll tell you, you almost, during that 6.5 years, you didn't really have time to think about that too much, like let it soak in, because you was always on to something else.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting there thinking, dang, there's a lot of stuff happened in that 6.5 years. So anyhow, that's a bunch of it. Then, you know, the Cardinals have the jersey 57 retired.
Okay.
So when I first got to be governor, I went up there in 18 was the year I went in, so I threw out the first pitch in 18. So they give me the jersey 18, and then of course the Chiefs give me 57, and you know, it's just a lot of stuff. You know, it's pretty cool.
Our interview of Governor Mike Parson. We'll have more of that sit-down interview as the night progresses, but we do want to bring you a little bit of information going forward. Like we said, the Secretary of State's office is anticipating up to 1.4 million votes cast, which is roughly a 40% increase over the previous primary election in the midterm. Or excuse me, the previous primary election. In Laclede County, just to put a number to that, 6,884 votes were cast in the primary last go-around. So we're looking for a market increase from that 6,800 number as well. We do have one result that I'd like to bring you from one of those kind of outside races that we're paying attention to, which is that Democratic primary in the 1st Congressional District with Cori Bush and Wesley Bell. We've got, let's see, 22,892 votes cast so far in that, and that's going to be St. Louis County and St. Louis City. Wesley Bell with 17,598, and Corey Bush with 4,539. So Wesley Bell coming in with a high majority so far of what has been cast, and that's being brought to us by News Nation results. So we'll continue to monitor that one as one of those, again, outlier races that we're going to pay attention to more for what it has to mean in the general than necessarily tonight. But you have an incumbent running against the former, and that's always an interesting one to watch.
And they've had a lot of heated races up in the St. Louis area, especially for county administrator in St. Louis County. So it'll be interesting to watch happens in the St. Louis area. It'll be interesting, too, to see how St. Louis votes on Amendment 5. One of the few places where they actually have a city income tax, as they do in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So that may swing that vote a little bit regarding the income tax on Amendment 5. Amendment 4 up there seems to be leaning to a no, but it'll be interesting. And one of the reasons is, and a lot of argument as to why 4 is important to rural Missouri is rural Missouri that ability to override St. Louis, Columbia, Kansas City, and Springfield to a degree of pushing initiatives and giving rural Missouri a little bit more of a voice in that. It'd be interesting to see what happens up in the St. Louis area regarding that.
Yeah, something to keep in mind with initiative petitions. I think for this year's elections, that something like 25 different initiative petitions were originally filed. So there was the potential for 25 different amendments to be on the ballot. We got 5 of them today, and there may be some more to come. There will be more to come in the November election, but Missouri makes it very easy for things to be put on the ballot, to be brought to the people, and that's not a statement as to whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a statement about it's relatively easy for a group to put something forward to potentially get the signatures to be brought up. And so this is just reevaluating the way that that is done to maybe get us a little bit of a clearer path, a more difficult path in some ways, but again, like you said, not to overrule certain parts of the state in favor of others.
We're waiting for results in Laclede County to come in. I'm somewhat surprised that we haven't seen the absentee ballots yet. Again, when there's heavier voting, those things slow down a bit. Mm-hmm. We talked about this in April, and I think it rings true, especially in the primary. In the general election. In Laclede County, historically, if you do well in the absentee voting, that really sets the groundwork that you're probably going to do well throughout the county.
Yeah, that is typically the case, is that whenever those absentee results come in, they're fairly indicative of what the final tally is going to be. That's not always the case, and especially when your absentee ballots are close, then it's going to be a pretty close race, generally speaking, or at very least you can't read a whole lot of tea leaves from a close absentee result. But as soon as those come in, we'll have those for you and give you some thoughts on what those could mean.
And we invite you again to join in on our conversation and with comments, and we'll be glad to discuss with you the things that you're dropping down in the comment section.
Can you read that?
I cannot read that as I'm talking.
City Administrator Troy is watching via satellite with only occasional interruption from the backcountry of Glacier National Park.
All right.
So you might want to repeat that.
These are nationwide results as far as I'm concerned then. Troy Schulte, city administrator for the city of Lebanon, is watching via satellite and will only occasionally be interrupted from the backcountry of Glacier National Park. So we're very excited to have Troy watching. Enjoy your vacation, Troy. You don't have to watch election results even when you're sitting on such a beautiful piece of land, but we're glad to have you.
I'm sure he is very interested. Bob Garner, city councilman, is also waiting for election results. They're interested in the transportation tax. It was on the ballot for those who live in the city. This is a continuation tax regarding that tax and street improvement, sidewalk improvement in the city of Lebanon. Usually those continuation taxes have no problem in passing again. Now, we're in a little bit different atmosphere, I think, politically, and I'm sure those on city council and talking with Mayor Carr regarding all this, that there are, in fact, some probably angst about what may happen with that. I guess it will. My thought is it will pass, but it's a different era.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions today, not just about who you wanted to vote for, but the things that you wanted to vote for, the issues that you wanted to vote for, and just in some of the people that I've talked to, you're tempted to just say a pox on all your houses whenever there's so much that just gets put on the ballot. I've heard some people, say that that's partly the legislature's job to decide things like that. And so it will be curious to see if that political climate moves all the way down to the city level for that transportation tax. I'm with you. I think that passes, but it will be, again, interesting to see the numbers associated with that.
We do have some numbers that have come in, and I don't know if they're on your screen. I guess that they are, and they are not. Okay, so this is the absentee votings in Laclede County, so we'll take a look at that. For U.S. Representative, District 4, Mark Alford, who is the incumbent, 331 votes. He got 75% of the vote. My guess is that will pretty much stay where it's at, and probably will throughout the entire district. Scott Fitzpatrick, who we had as a guest here on Lebanon Now, 85% of the vote in Laclede County, 373 votes. For State Center District 16, and this is one of the big ones we're watching, and Bill Hardwick has jumped out to a lead in Laclede County with 189 votes. 42% of those casting ballots in the absentee voted for Bill Hardwick. Hannah Kelly with 153s in third place or second place with 34%. Melissa Schmidt is not running with opposition. She's had 100% of the vote in District 141. 142, one of the ones that we're watching intently tonight. Of the absentee ballots, and that usually in that race, and of course Dallas County, you have to remember that Laclede County is bifurcated. It's divided up between Melissa Schmidt's 141 and what is now Jeff Knight's 142. All of Dallas County votes in this race, so Dallas County really has a big thumb on this.
It's something that's made it a little bit hard to really make a good prediction as to how tonight is going to go. Going back, like you said, Laclede County used to be one single district. And so really the last time that you had a contested race, because again, Jeff Knight was appointed to that position whenever Senator Crawford became senator. So it was Sandy Crawford running for state rep against Randy Angst, who's now the presiding commissioner, way back when. That's the last time that a district that looks sort of like the one that we have now had a real contested race between two single-term reps. So, and even then, it's not quite apples to apples.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of good information as to how that will pan out, but it has been a fun one to watch.
If we can get Ryan's going to work on getting that put back up, and we'll look at that now. And the constitutional amendment number 4. And if Ryan will make that a little bit bigger so I can see it will help. Constitutional Amendment number 4, yes votes, 155, only 24% voting yes on Constitutional Amendment number 4, 470 voting no, so 75% of those casting ballots in the absentee have voted for the constitutional amendment that stops the current initiative petition. And Constitutional Amendment number 5, and if Ryan will put that back up on my screen there, 531 votes for no, 84% of those people in Laclede County voting absentee, voting no on abolishing the income tax here in the state of Missouri.
David, are you surprised by those numbers and the margins?
I am on number 4. I am not on number 5 based on just conversations that I've had with people. I am surprised in number 4 simply because, again, those that have pushed that have made it quite clear that in rural Missouri, this was really probably a game changer. And they often use and cite the fact that we have legalized marijuana, which passed only in the larger areas of the state, in Columbia, St. Louis, Kansas City, I think maybe Springfield as well. The rest of rural Missouri voted no. They also go back to the abortion issue a couple of years ago that failed in every other county in the state except for those large cities. So again, I thought that initiative petition was probably going to be redone here in the state of Missouri, but if Laclede County, which is probably a pretty good barometer for this, probably is not going to pass.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good analysis on that. And like you said before, it's the entire climate. When people don't quite know what to think, whenever there's negative ads calling you a socialist if you vote for it and calling you a socialist if you vote against it, there's just not really a good way to make heads or tails of it if you're just a normal person trying to live your day out, but you also want to be a decent citizen and go to vote as a relatively informed person. It's difficult to do that. Not to say that that's the reason for the results tonight being the way that they are, but it's been a very fascinating climate to kind of observe.
And why I believe that it's probably a good barometer even for Amendment 5. Remember that 4 and 5 were being pushed by Governor Kehoe, who a Republican governor in a Republican county like Laclede County. And remember also statewide that 49% of those in Missouri consider themselves Republicans. Of that 49%, 77% find themselves to be conservative Republicans. And based on the fact that the governor was pushing this initiative and pushing also the number 5, I think Laclede County is a pretty good barometer to say that it's probably not going to pass statewide.
And David, he even was able to receive some help from the national scene with Donald Trump Jr. tweeting out Xing out, I don't know what it's called now, tweeting, we're going to say tweeting, tweeting out support for amendment issue number 5. And so this is something that has had a strong push behind it from the Republican side. In an interview that Governor Kehoe did about a week ago, he pitched the idea that Missouri needs to do something to differentiate itself from the other 49 states so that we do not lag behind. He said that's not where we are now. We're not at a point of lagging behind, but we always want to do something to keep ourselves up, fresh, and competitive on the national scene. And so it'll be interesting, like we said, if Missouri thinks that this is the way to do that or not.
Here's the Lebanon transportation tax. It is winning with 79% of those that went to the polls in the absentees, 179 to 46. And as we anticipated, the transportation tax will probably do well in the city of Lebanon. Remember also that that was the only citywide ballot measure. So that's probably a pretty good idea, gives us a pretty good idea of what avenue that's going down.
And I also just want to go back a little bit on something that I had said previously when we said there are some people who think that these are the jobs for the legislature not to bring it. The city transportation tax is not one of those things. That is a tax that comes up regularly that the people have to reaffirm or let go away. And so, but again, what we were talking about is the political climate overall. It seems that the transportation tax is having a good night for passing, and that it's not something that has been caught up in all of that. But just wanted to give a little bit of clarity on that. There are some things that people have to vote on. There's some things that maybe the people don't have to vote on, which again causes some of that confusion.
And I think one of the things that helped Lebanon in passing, if it does go ahead and pass, and it certainly looks like it will, based on the numbers just from the absentee ballots, which are a pretty good indicator a lot of times about what's going to happen, is that Lebanon has done such a good job of redoing streets in the city of Lebanon, projects that they have, ongoing projects they have. I think the voters in the city feel very comfortable about handing the money over that they've been handing over to city council to get those jobs done. The adverse effect of not passing the transportation tax, a tax that's you're already paying and have for many, many years now, would be a lot of those things would stop. Some projects that are in the hopper right now would not get done, and I think the folks that live in the city understand that.
And Dave,
over the Hardwick races again with absentee.
Okay. And David, even to your point, that is what government fundamentally is supposed to do, right? We talk about roads and bridges. That is the stuff that everybody kind of agrees is supposed to be the product that government is producing. So we have some other results for you tonight on the state Senate race for our Senate district. Bill Hardwick, again, these are the early votes in Laclede County. Bill Hardwick with 189 votes, Philip Lohman with 17, Don Mayhew with 86, and Hannah Kelly with 153. So percentage-wise, that means Bill Hardwick at this point has 42.4, and Hannah Kelly with 34 19.38, followed by Mayhew at 19.3 and Philip Loman with 3.8. So those are the early results for Laclede County. And David, what do you think as far as those numbers go? Again, we knew this was going to be a tight race, specifically in Laclede County, because the candidates did spend so much time here. These are names and faces that we've become familiar with over the last several weeks. So as far as those results go, are you surprised?
You know, I'm not totally surprised by the number, and that is close. And I would tell you this, and I don't want to go back on what I said, that the numbers that come from the absentee often are a good barometer as what's going to happen for the rest of the election in Laclede County. Mm-hmm. But I would tell you that you're talking 42% and somewhere around 38% or 36%. That's pretty close in that absentee balloting. Probably one of the big areas that we'll see will be what East Lebanon does in that vote. Remember that Hannah Kelly was the state representative for Laclede County, so winning Laclede County, I think, is going to be really important for her. Mm-hmm. She will probably carry her home county of Wright County, but I think for her to win this election, Laclede County becomes the crucial county, and I think in looking at those numbers, that's probably still too close to call as a representative of who's going to end up in that seat.
Sure. Whenever you're talking about 140 or 150 to 180, it's still anybody's race for the county. It's certainly still anybody's race for the Senate district. All candidates in that race are going to have a long night ahead of them, particularly at the rate that results are coming out. We're continuing to monitor things like NBC, KY3. KY3 doesn't have any new numbers. The Missouri Secretary of State's website does not offer any new numbers beyond that. So we are looking at kind of a long night for those Senate candidates, and I'm sure after the summer that they've had, they'd love it to be quicker, but we can only do so much. Let's see.
And these multi-county races, some clerk's offices are a little bit faster than others. It depends on, obviously, the number of people that go out to vote. We've already talked about that we think statewide the numbers are going to be way up, and we think the numbers for this primary is going to be up.
Statewide still set at 0, by the way.
Yeah, I don't mean to cast any dispersion on the clerks across the state. Missouri does do really well with getting their election results in quickly, but when you have a lot of votes, that's a lot of counting, and it's a lot of accounting to make sure that everything is done correctly.
And remember that the votes that are tallied tonight are the unofficial votes. They'll probably be certified by Friday, but it's actually unofficial votes. Usually that doesn't come into play unless there's a really tight race in which it's a 2, 3, 1% difference in the vote. Again, Constitutional Amendment 4, the initiative petition mission, is being defeated soundly in Laclede County, and the absentee votes, 470 cast no. That's 75% of those that voted. 84% have voted against Amendment number 5, which is the income tax issue. And again, and we can kind of analyze that, and we've talked about that this is a really that when you look at, and Scott Fitzpatrick said it, the state auditor, in an interview he did with me, the budget is broke in the state of Missouri. People are looking at the income tax issue. What's that going to mean in replacing revenue? Even though it was to be revenue neutral, I think a lot of people hung up on how can it be neutral. I think one of the issues with 5, and we'll see how it goes for the rest of the night, but again, I think Laclede County pretty well is going to speak for most of the state regarding this. It's not going to go well, is that the plan to send it back to the state legislature without knowing exactly where they're going to go really put off a lot of people.
Yeah, because we also don't know what the timeline looks like on that, and if the legislature that exists now is going to be the legislature that actually puts together what the new system is going to be. So I heard one candidate say, this is the show me state, so when you say that it's revenue neutral, you're going to have to show me. Put up a plan as a proposal, even though that's not what the people would necessarily be voting on. It is something for them to consider as a possibility, whereas now with Amendment 5, there's not much to consider other than do you want to get rid of the old thing with no promise of what the new thing might be.
And there were a number of Republican candidates through the election that really started backing away from Amendment Number 5, which I found somewhat odd based on the fact that the governor, again, was one of the key speakers on this, as was the state auditor, and a lot of other Republican leadership. But a lot of people started to really kind of back away from it. And again, I think that's part of maybe the angst that was felt by candidates, feeling like we can't come out for this. I heard some backlash of office holders, state representatives, state senators, that it should have never been put on the ballot. I would disagree with that. I think that you can put a plan out there and let the voters decide that plan. And if it's not what the voters wanted, the fact that I may have voted for that to let you take an opportunity to see if that's what you want to do, I think that's the way the system works.
Sure. It's all about the degree of democracy that you want to deal with, and how much we put to the people versus how much we give to their elected representatives. But like you said, it's not illegitimate to ask the people what they want to do, and particularly on an issue like how do you want to be taxed? Maybe the rate is something that the legislature should be solely responsible for, and we're involved in that process as we elect our representatives. But the way in which we're taxed, I think you're right, does seem like a fair thing to bring directly to the people and say, how do you want us to set up the system? And then once that system exists, we'll work within it.
We're going to get ready to go to a break here in a little bit. Want to remind you that Taylor had a sit-down interview with former Governor Mike Parson. That's going to come up. We're also hoping to have current state representative who's termed out and is now setting this election out, and Jeff Knight is hopefully we'll have him with us before the 8 o'clock hour. Also hope to have Dr. Jeff Brown with us and Melissa Schmidt with us as we continue our coverage here on Lebanon Now. Don't forget that we'll wrap all this up tonight, and then tomorrow morning on Millsap in the Morning, we will have a recap of everything that we see tonight, and we'll talk about all of that at 9 o'clock live here on Lebanon Now. You can find that on YouTube as well on Facebook. We'll be back with more election coverage right after this.
At Ozark Fiber, we're not some giant out-of-town company. We live here, we work here. We're part of this community. When you call us, you're talking to your neighbors, not a call center. We know how important it is to keep your home and business connected with fast, reliable internet. That's why we offer speeds up to 2 gigs. No contracts, no installation or equipment fees, and service you can actually count on. This is the internet the way it should be. Check your availability now at ozarkfiber.com. Just hit the green button, and if we're not in your area, just let us know you'd like us to be. That's ozarkfiber.com.
Well, we started AAA Plumbing in 2024 in Lebanon. I was born and raised here. We wanted to provide an experience with plumbing like nobody had ever seen. Our motto is to set the standard, and we truly believe we do that with the customer. We take care of jobs from start to finish, and we're not looking for a one and done. We want repeat customers. We also set out with the goal to provide good paying trade jobs for local people here in Lebanon, somewhere they'd be proud to work and be able to make a living and provide for their family.
Did you get us switched over to shelter insurance?
Actually, I found a deal online.
You did? Does your deal come with award-winning customer service?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Does the deal include a local agent?
Doesn't actually say.
Can we create a customized plan that fits our needs? Let's just call the local shelter agent.
For insurance that fits just right, find a shelter agent near you.
See shelter agent Kim Breeden or affiliate agents Crystal Thompson and Stephanie Esther in Lebanon today.
Why drive out of town for a spa day? Right here in town, Harry's Salon brings the spa experience close to home with relaxing Aveda treatments, professional hair care, and the premium Bob product line. Whether you're ready for a fresh look, healthier hair, or simply a little well-deserved time to unwind, you'll leave feeling refreshed, confident, and looking your very best. Harry's Salon. Luxury salon care right here at home. Stop by today.
Welcome back to Lebanon Now. We are joined in studio by candidate for District 142, Dr. Jeff Brown. Dr. Brown, as the results are coming in tonight, we've already read on air, you have 167 votes to Royce Tuck's 24. Those are the absentee ballots that have been cast so far. As far as going around today, kind of working some of the election polls and just talking to people, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
The absentee numbers are strong, and I know the people that I've been brainstorming with about this process, we're happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good day. Meeting people in district does not stop. Being at the polls today was a wonderful experience. Seeing people, talking to people, introducing myself sometimes for the first time, and having the opportunity to do that, and still hearing from Missourians. That's why I'm doing this, is to know our people and to know what our people want and get to know them.
What are your feelings as we're kind of getting some of the information as well on some of those ballot issues? That's been a hot topic as people have been wondering what you think as someone who's trying to run for state representative. What's the word on the street from a candidate?
Yeah, so the word on the street is we have some numbers that are coming in that are going to dictate what we're going to be doing in Jeff City if I make it that far. And that's where my eyes are set. What is going to happen in the Capitol, what we need to be doing, and still hearing from people. I think we are listening now to these numbers that we're seeing that are coming back already. We have to be paying attention to those and then try to work some magic in a few situations, to be honest.
Yeah. So, again, as you said, your eyes are kind of set on Jefferson City. We do have a general election coming up in November where you're going to be running against former Mayor Josh Ray. What would you say, as it's going to be, Democrat versus Republican, what is the Republican agenda that you are going to be walking into should you come out victorious that you think is unique and really has something specific to offer to Missouri?
Yeah, I have to say that we often are looking at what the Republican agenda is. My personal agenda happens to be reflected in the Republican agenda. And it's not too early for me to say already, Amendment 3, we're going to start talking about it today because we have to be taking care of the unborn kiddos that are in Missouri. We have to be taking care of the minors that are looking at the transgender agenda. It's not too early for me to lay down very solidly. I was the only individual on the Republican ticket in the primary who supported Amendment 3. And I think that may be part of what we're hearing already in these numbers that have been coming back.
And I think something interesting as you bring that up, that's not just something that you support from a political perspective, that is something that you have professional insight on, right? These are issues that you know at a deeper level than a lot of people.
Right. And I've talked to people who have gone through a process of deciding to give up a child, and it may be a stress reliever for some in the moment, but in the long haul, psychologically, it's quite a burden, and people live with those decisions. We want kids to live as well, and that's going to be a no-brainer part of what we look at in November.
So as you've been kind of introduced into this legislative process, I assume that going forward from tonight, it really picks up tomorrow morning. What between now and November, as you're still continuing to run, how does the caucus get set up? What are the steps to ensure that if you are elected, that on January 1st, you're not just thrown into the lion's den?
I think I'm going to be thrown into the lion's den.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go.
I appreciate your optimism that it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I try to be a quick study.
Sure.
And I have an inquisitive mind, and I like problem solving. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm glad that the absentee votes, it's suggesting that the absentee voters are agreeing with my decision to run, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and that is a big decision. It's a big decision to put yourself forward. It's a vulnerable spot. Even if you start from a strong position, that is a nerve-wracking thing. So even just to say, for putting yourself forward, I admire that courage. There are many people who have a lot of opinions, but never actually put their name on the ballot. So we're continuing to monitor these results as they come in. Let's see. Let's see if we have any more recent results on this race. Again, David pointed out this is going to be a rather long night because the results, or excuse me, because there are several votes cast. We have a high turnout, and so it's reasonable to suspect that it's going to take a while. And it looks like we're sitting at the same absentee numbers in Laclede County that we have been for a little while. So, Jeff, as far as campaigning, we talked a little bit about what it means to get set up with the Republican caucus. What do you see moving forward in your campaign as you go from having Republican opponents to a Democratic opponent in November?
Well, I see that the folks that have been supportive of me, I don't think anyone's going anywhere, and we all have a like-minded agenda, and we are hard workers. I can't say enough about the people that have been behind me, the people that have been alongside me, a lot of people that go in front of me, and we have the same agenda, and we're going to keep that work ethic going. I posted earlier today talking about Missouri roots and family and follow through. If you ask me to go to Jeff City, I'm going to go to Jeff City. I'm going to stay there the whole term. That's something that you can count on. That's part of what I think stick-to-itiveness is about. I think that's what Missouri work ethic is about. As far as adjusting a campaign, I don't know that we need to adjust a whole lot. We found a kind of a sweet spot, I suppose you could say, and that is prioritizing what people are saying and building on relationships and developing those relationships and becoming more and more like-minded. If anybody's followed my campaign, they know that I've talked a lot about being Missouri strong, and that's not going to change. We are Missouri strong, and that's what the district is going to be. We have folks that have been contributing meaningfully in Dallas County, in Camden County, in Laclede County. As I've said before, my heart started beating in Laclede County many, many years ago, but my heart has continued to beat even faster for Dallas and Camden County as I've gotten to know people that are like-minded there and we share the same values. So we're going to duck our heads, we're going to keep working hard, and we're going to continue to be Missouri strong, regardless of the side of the aisle you're on. I love it when I've had people come to me who are on the Democratic side, and they say, you know, I'm voting for you because I know who you are and what you stand for. And frankly, many of those people have contributed to my life and who I am coming out of Lebanon. So can't be prouder to have that kind of endorsement from somebody across the aisle.
Well, Dr. Brown, with the results that have come in so far, it might be an early congratulations, but it seems like you are on your way to a very successful night, and we thank you for joining us here on Lebanon Now.
You bet.
We're going to go ahead and transition now, and get David back in here, and we're going to focus on some other races. Oh, we have some results. Perfect.
So we do have some results. So these are...
Waiting for the results to pop up.
Okay, wow. So Missouri Constitutional Amendment 1, the sales tax for parks and conservation, an overwhelming yes vote here in Laclede County. Is that Laclede County votes? Or is that's statewide? Okay.
This is what's coming in statewide.
So 9,453 yes, no 1,561. So to the question that you had posed earlier, David, about the political climate kind of casting aspersions on other issues, it doesn't seem to be that way. It seems that the people who are voting on 4 and 5 were voting specifically on 4 and 5, and things like conservation are going a pretty standard way.
Exactly, and again, that's a continuation tax, probably the easiest tax that you can put on the ballot and continue to vote yes for most voters. But as we had talked about, we thought the political climate might dent that a little bit, but it certainly has not.
And it looks like we also have on Amendment 2, the requiring of a Jackson County assessor. That is, again, overwhelmingly passing statewide so far with 8238 yes and 1,680 votes no. So, again, 4 and 5 were their own unique thing that didn't create a climate. It seems like things are going in a pretty standard way with the voters very soundly coming out in the direction that they are.
Well, and 2 is interesting in the fact that it affects only Jackson County, and for a lot of people, I think they looked at it and said, well, I'm going to vote yes, so it has no impact on me whatsoever. But I think everybody needs to be elected who's holding a position in government, so that's what happened with it. So here's the congressional district approval for initiative constitutional amendment. Again, we're seeing it go down. No votes, 8,838, 2,161 yes votes statewide. So again, when we talk about that, and we thought that we would see a big movement in the rural counties away from St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia, that initiative might do better, but it looks like that it's going to fail statewide. And it was failing by big numbers in Laclede County. We thought that would be a barometer, and it certainly was.
And David, it will be interesting as we go through the night, as those results continue to come in, to see with more votes cast, with it taking a little bit longer to get those results, we don't have a breakdown precinct by precinct of where these votes are coming from. So are we going to see Kansas City and St. Louis votes come in a little bit later, as those are larger areas, and it's going to take even longer to get those results put out there? If this margin is going to last, and even if this result is going to be indicative of what the final tally ends up being.
It'll be interesting to see what happens at the state legislature as we talk about the initiative process, and if that ever comes back out on the ballot. And you know, as we've talked about, to change the United States Constitution, it takes 2/3 of the states to ratify that. But in the state of Missouri, it looks like the initiative petition process, as it stands today, will continue. So the income tax elimination and sales tax changes, amendment number 5. 9,203 no votes, 1,812 yes votes. Again, just using Laclede County numbers, these are statewide numbers. When we first saw the absentee ballots from Laclede County, it was a pretty good indication of where this was going to go.
We also have the city transportation tax renewal to bring you, and that is currently sitting at 893 yes votes and 298 no votes. So again, that roads and bridges kind of fundamentals of government is panning out, that the transportation tax is looking like it's going to continue on.
And typically on these type of taxes, they will pass. We're going to have an opportunity to visit with the current representative in 142. Jeff Knight is going to join us, and he is getting to set out an election cycle, and we'll talk to him about what his future may look like. I was trying to think back the last time that I had an interview with you. We got some results we want to bring to you in State Senate District 16. Let me go through those really quickly, and this is going to be a very tight race, and you see it's really tightened up, and I want to look to Ryan. Are these Laclede County votes, or is this statewide?
This should be statewide.
Statewide votes in District 16. Bill Hardwick leading the race with 1,057 votes. Hannah Kelly with 1,040 votes, and Don Mayhew with 523. So the race between Hardwick, who's a state rep out of Pulaski County, and Hannah Kelly, the former state rep that was a representative of Laclede County in District 141, now the seat held by Melissa Schmidt, trailing, but not trailing by very much. What's it feel like to set out an election?
You see the smile? Obviously, whenever you're there, until you've ever put your name on that ballot, you have no idea how nerve-wracking it is. But, it feels pretty good.
You know, I was trying to think back the last time that you and I sat down for an interview, and I actually remembered it was at Rolla at the football stadium. Lebanon was playing Rolla, and you were there scouting, and we had a halftime interview. I told you off camera that doing a lightning delay or rain delay in baseball or whatever it may be, a weather delay or injury delay in football is a lot easier than sitting here and trying to talk politics for a couple of hours. So we can get back to talking football after tonight. But,
I'll come back.
We'll talk a little bit about politics. Your time in the state legislature, you've got to tell the story about the first day you're there, because it was not like most people's first day.
No, I won that special election, and literally they moved me up a week. I was supposed to be like a week later, and they said, hey, great news, we're swearing you in on Monday, and said, how many parking passes will you need? And I'm like, probably none now. And they were like, well, how come? And I was like, well, my family works. And so I think my daughter picked my mom up, and she drove up. I'm pretty sure my wife left the sale barn and changed in the parking lot. Went to the first caucus meeting. Todd Richardson told me not to let the place change me, and hopefully it hasn't. And then he said, hey, you're never going to forget this meeting. I was like, well, no, I'm a state rep. He then opened up our meeting with forming a committee to investigate our governor for possible impeachment. And I was like, whew, wasn't talking about me. So went down, got sworn in. They asked if I brought my family Bible. No one told me to bring a family Bible. And then they asked who was going to hold it. So I got to go over and ask my mom or Amy or Savannah who was going to hold it. Amy went up, got down. They told me where I was sitting. The people there told me I couldn't sit there because their buddy sat there. Well, they moved him to put me there. So I was like the kid, in the lunchroom trying to find a place. And the next day, got to go down to the cafeteria and go sign up for re-election. Said it's kind of like buying a car without getting to test drive it. And literally came back and came in a different door. And I wasn't sure I could find my office. So I just started going up steps and got to the third floor rotunda. And I thought, okay, I can find my office now. And Mike Deering, actually a Senate candidate now, was executive director of the Cattlemen's. And first person I seen, I actually knew his name. And I was like, Deering, this is nuts. And he goes, hey, come here, I need to talk to you. And I said, yeah, what you got? And he goes, I got a bill you need to file. And I just started dying laughing. And I said, I don't even know how many people are in the House. He goes, 163. And I'm like, well, 162 of them would be a better choice than me right now. But probably one of the best things I ever did, just jumped in the fire and filed the fake meat legislation, truth in labeling, and it actually passed. Not because of me, but...
and signed by the governor?
Signed by the governor. So dumb luck.
With term limits, and Taylor and I talked about this the other day, why there's a lot to learn as you walk into that building. The uptake on that's got to be pretty quick because you're not there for very long.
And that is, I was a huge term limit guy until I got there, and then you realize, I did file that bill the first year, and I had a lot of people helping me. It wasn't like I did it, but I never left my seat. I sat down and I watched every debate, and I tried to figure out who knew what they were doing and who didn't. And then you go introduce yourselves to those people, and you try to surround yourselves with those people so you can learn. And I joke, old Dave, I call him Super Dave. He's been a staffer there for 118 years, and he was old, he was bald, and I looked at him and I said, hey, what's your name? He told me he was Dave, and I said, what do you do here? He goes, I'm a staff. He goes, I work for the Speaker Pro Tem. I said, well, you look like you're old and you know what's going on. So I asked Dave a lot of stupid questions that first year, and but yeah, it takes a while to understand how that building works.
And that kind of leads me to my next question. What did you find surprising about being a state legislator?
There's really not any money underneath the table. I looked underneath every table in Jefferson City, and I never found any. It was a little disappointing, I'm not going to lie. But the lobbyist, for all the people that think lobbyists are evil people, for every lobbyist you hate, there's one you like, because there's literally on every side of every issue. And I never had a lobbyist that never came and talked to me again if I told them I wasn't with them. They literally come in there, give you the information, and you can use that. And then you go find the lobbyists that are lobbying against it, and you get information from them. And it's pretty interesting. We had a transmission line issue, private company versus Ameren. Ameren's the big boys, and Ameren would give their speech, and it sounded pretty good for first right of refusal. But in a Republican caucus, this private company would come in and go, well, where's the competition if they get to do all this? And they were just conflicting stories the entire time. And I actually was running the Rules Committee, and I called the Ameren lobbyist, and I said, hey, can you be in my office at 1 o'clock? Oh, absolutely. And I called the guy for Next Gen. I said, hey, any chance you could be in my office at 1 o'clock? And they were kind of surprised to see one another whenever they walked in there. And I said, okay, boys, have at it. And more of that needs to go. You need to get everybody in the room.
And I think that's one of the things that people talk about, lobbyists, and you kind of brought that up. These are people that are experts in that field. And,
yes.
We, as sheriff, we were represented by a lobbyist that carried our message. Sheriffs don't have the time or opportunity to go office to office in Jeff City to try to explain that. And most businesses Most associations have some type of laws. We're looking at state representative in District 142 right now, Jeff Brown with 523 votes. This is Royce Tuck with 158 votes, and this is from combined counties, is what we believe that to be. Constitutional Amendment 4 to change the initiative petition process. 35,336 yes votes, being defeated soundly with 164,892 votes. That's a statewide tally. And again, we don't know how many precincts are currently reporting in. Income tax elimination and sales tax change amendment number 5, soundly being defeated statewide, 168,892 votes, 32,242 votes. Yes. We've got Jeff here, and we'll talk about that as you're going out of office. Are you surprised by any of those numbers regarding 4 and 5?
4 surprises me. You know, the initiative petition process has been something that Republicans have claimed that we've been trying to take care of for years. And some of the people who have ran campaigns based on it have been the people who killed it within that building. I was involved in some negotiations to get the realtors and the contractors to kind of step down, and I think it would be much easier for the voting public if you just said 50% plus 1 for a proposition and 55 or 56% to change the Constitution. It should be harder to change the Constitution. And those lobbying firms, the realtors, the contractors, and the people who have passed some issues that way, they were going to back off of it at 55 or 6. But you throw something like this in all the congressional districts, and it just kind of muddies the water a little bit. But you think, do we really need 83 pages of marijuana in our Missouri Constitution? Whether it's legal or not legal, make it a statute. But, I mean, that's how bad things get in your Constitution.
We're going to be back with more with Jeff Knight when we come back right after this.
I want something fun, still professional, something professionally fun.
It's okay to be particular.
Not too medium. More rare than medium, but still medium rare.
Especially with your insurance.
We need policies that
help cover your house, cars, boat, and provide peace of mind.
Yes.
Exactly.
With Shelter Insurance, our agents help you design a plan that's particular to you for insurance that fits just right. Find a Shelter agent near you.
See Shelter Agent Kim Breeden or affiliate agents Crystal Thompson and Stephanie Esther in Lebanon today.
If you've never been to June and Beyond, let me tell you something. It's not just a boutique, it's an experience. This is the kind of place you can grab your girlfriends for a fun afternoon, try on half of the store, laugh a little too loud, and walk out feeling amazing. But it's also the place you can bring your mom, or your daughter, or all 3 of you together. Because June and Beyond truly has something for everyone.
Injured on the job? Call Dan the Man. Hiring the wrong attorney could cost you everything. Don't risk your future. Call Dan the Man at Deputy in Mizell.
Primary election night in Missouri,
fun.
and this is the
Still
coverage on Lebanon Now. I'm David Millsap. Taylor Howe is with me.
It's okay to be
Jeff Knight is sitting
Not
next to me. He's the outgoing state representative in District 142. I want to get you, it looks like 4 and 5 is already being called by the major networks, that it's been defeated. Both have been defeated in Missouri. What was your thought about 5?
5 I was pretty apprehensive with from the get-go. I think if we'd have put something out there with a plan, any kind of plan, even if it was just the first stage of that plan, I thought the thing that made the most common sense to me was a sin tax. If you say, hey, we're going to eliminate it, and the first thing we're going to go after is gambling, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and all those, that's a choice people can make, and I think that would have resonated a little bit. But whenever you say we're going to get rid of it and we're going to leave it up to the legislators, that's questionable.
And that's one of the things that I've talked about when it comes to term limits, because I can make an argument that term limits are not necessarily good. And maybe the fact that in the state of Missouri for a state representative, it's 2 years. That's a quick turnaround. You basically never quit running for office. Maybe that needs to be extended. But in regards to term limits, I trust my guy. it's that guy over there that represents you that I don't necessarily want to trust with that. So you wind down things. You're still in office until January. It doesn't look like there's going to be a special session to be called. What are your final thoughts about the office you held and representing the people of Laclede and Dallas and parts of Camden County?
Absolutely loved it. It never imagined I would ever do anything like that, but it was very worthwhile. Enjoyed every minute, met a lot of great people, people that, it's kind of like, you have your high school friends, you got your college friends, and I've got a whole new set of friends now that I'll keep in touch with. Great experience. Sandy Crawford and her husband, John, what they did for me during the whole process, just absolutely amazing. My only real reservations, I guess, would be that, currently it looks like Laclede County, obviously they're going to have Melissa. She's going to be back. She's done a great job. Looks like Jeff's going to take care of business here. I'm only apprehensive for the fact that your two representatives that you have a great opportunity to make me look terrible. So that concerns me a little bit. But other than that, I've had a great time.
We've had a lot of luck, and I've talked about this in events that we've been together, that you were never afraid to call people back home to see what their thoughts were. Numerous phone calls while I was sheriff from you about how would this impact you, how would it impact financially. I think those types of representatives may be far and few between. Melissa's been really good about that, and so have you.
The problem in Jeff City would be the people who think they do have all the answers, and I've never pretended to have all the answers. I know that Judge Winfrey and Judge Jackson, it didn't matter. Highway Patrol, law enforcement, I always had people I could call. I said, whenever you're not very smart, you need to have smart friends. So that's kind of how I did it.
And you've went out already endorsed Jeff Brown for your spot.
Yep.
And I know that you endorse Melissa Schmidt for the spot that she's running.
Absolutely.
And both of them will have races in November.
Yep.
Let's take a look at some of the races that are going on right now. So the Missouri sales tax issue, now it looks like it's this is for the conservation measure. It's going to pass easily. 225,853 yes votes, only 43,852 no votes regarding that. Let's see what's up next here is Ryan loads it up. The approval for the initiative petition issue is soundly being defeated. This is going to be defeated throughout the state now. 215,736 no votes, 48,039 yes votes. We can call that race here as well, that's not going to change tonight, and that's going to go down to defeat. To eliminate the Missouri income tax is also can be easily called from here. 213,000 no votes, 41,799 votes for yes. In the race for state representative in District 142, Jeff Brown with 639 votes, Royce Tuck with 183 votes. And again, we don't know how many precincts are reporting regarding that. We'll try to get that to you as soon as we can. As we go to Senate District 16, Bill Hardwick with 272 votes, Don Mayhew now with 183 votes, and Hannah Kelly with 115, Philip Lohman with 22 votes. So Mayhew, and I'm going to assume now that some of the votes that are trickling in is probably from the Pulaski County area, maybe Phelps County, and we're starting to see that race draw now Mayhew into second place in that race. So a lot of results starting to come in. Melissa Schmidt's going to join us when we come back, and we're back right after this.
At Ozark Fiber, we're not some giant out-of-town company. We live here, we work here. We're part of this community. When you call us, you're talking to your neighbors, not a call center. We know how important it is to keep your home and business connected with fast, reliable internet. That's why we offer speeds up to 2 gigs. No contracts, no installation or equipment fees, and service you can actually count on. This is the internet the way it should be. Check your availability now at ozarkfiber.com. Just hit the green button, and if we're not in your area, just let us know you'd like us to be. That's ozarkfiber.com.
Well, we started AAA Plumbing in 2024 in Lebanon. I was born and raised here. We wanted to provide an experience with plumbing like nobody had ever seen. Our motto is to set the standard, and we truly believe we do that with the customer. We take care of jobs from start to finish, and we're not looking for a one and done. We want repeat customers. We also set out with the goal to provide good paying trade jobs for local people here in Lebanon, somewhere they'd be proud to work and be able to make a living and provide for their family.
And welcome back to Lebanon Now. I'm Taylor Howe, sitting down with Representative Melissa Schmidt. Melissa, uncontested tonight, and so some might think that you would be able to kick your feet up, but you're not really the kick your feet up and do nothing type.
That's not really my personality. You're right, Taylor.
Yeah,
That's not really what I do.
So I know that you're fauching at the bit to see what work needs to be done tomorrow. And so as we go from tonight, seeing the results on 4 and 5, what do you think is the next step as a legislator moving forward? What do we need to go back to the people and talk about? What is it that you're seeing the people telling you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I don't really take a breath. I like to keep going. And I think the folks are telling us through their voting on 4 and 5, and as we're just talking to them, I think there's no denial that we need to reform initiative petition. Mm-hmm. There's no denial that we need to reform tax, the way we tax our people. I think we just weren't comfortable with what was proposed to us. Mm-hmm. And so I think we've got to get back to the drawing board. We've got to hear what our people are saying to us, and we've got to get to work. It's time.
And then, of course, moving forward, as we talked with Dr. Brown about Amendment 3, that is the petition or the initiative that's going to be coming up in November. Mm-hmm. And he said that we're going to hit the ground running, working on that as well. And I know that that's an issue that's particularly close to your heart, too. So tell us a little bit about what that initiative is going to look like.
Yeah. So I have spent a good chunk of the off-site session just informing folks, educating folks about Amendment 3. I think we need to really take a hard look at what our Constitution actually says about abortion. Mm-hmm. And I say this a lot. Wherever you land in this conversation, I think we all agree that we want women to have safe health care, regulated health care, recourse should there be an accident. We want parents to have a say in their daughters' decisions. And so I think we all agree we need to go back and revisit that. 70% of my folks said no to the original Amendment 3. So putting that back out there and letting them have another shot at that, I think we really have to do that, making sure that we're protecting the most vulnerable. And in my mind, there's none more vulnerable than the infant in the womb. And that's not a surprise that anyone hear me say that. That's a good chunk of the reason that I serve in the legislative body, is to make sure we're protecting children. And if we can't protect them in the womb, I'm not quite sure what we're doing. We have to be able to do that. So yes, Amendment 3 will come back to the voter. We'll see that again in November. The ballot language is very clear. It is allowing abortion for certain circumstances. It is regulating health care. It is making sure that only authorized medical professionals are able to perform those procedures in those situations. It's making sure that if a woman were hurt in one of those situations, she would have some recourse. It's making sure minors aren't allowed to have those. And it's also closing that conversation around gender transition for children. So that's a big amendment. That's something huge. The last amendment, pro-life folks were saying no to 3. Pro-life folks this go around need to say yes. We want to amend and change the Constitution.
And moving away from election initiative petitions and the things that are going to be on our ballots, what are the big things coming forward in the next session of the General Assembly that you're looking forward to working on as far as legislation goes?
Mm-hmm. So I have spent some of my off session sitting with my law enforcement. We made some good strides for law enforcement last year, but there's more work to do. The area of education, we all know also budget is going to be something that we're looking at. And like I said, we all agree there needs to be tax reform, so we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to hear what our constituents are saying in the area of property tax reform, and just an overall reform of our taxing system. I think, like I said, we agree that it needs to be reformed. I just don't know that the people were comfortable with what was being proposed in Amendment 5.
What are we looking at as far as a timeline? I remember in your interview with David that you had talked about there is not an infinite amount of time before the budget really comes to a head. And so what are we looking at as far as a timeline that we need to really do something before this really starts to hurt?
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to go back and watch the Scott Fitzpatrick interview that our state auditor did with Dave Millsap, that's full of information around our budget and the dire straits that we're in that conversation. What I really learned this year that really brought a lot to my attention is by 2030, the bulk of Missourians will be retired and not in the workforce. So continuing to build it around this income tax, just like we are currently, doesn't seem sustainable to me with that information.
So, like you said, everyone agrees that there's something that has to be done. The people of Missouri, again, deciding tonight on Issue 5, Amendment 5, that this was not necessarily the plan that they were looking for. Again, maybe even just that it was a little bit vague. Not that they would reject this if there were more details given as to what the next step would look like.
Right.
And so maybe that's even part of the solution, is to bring this back with a little bit more detail as to what the legislature is going to set up moving forward.
And I think that's true of all of us. You know, we're all nervous when it comes to change, and we'd like to know the plan. And I do think early on that was something that a lot of our voters were saying to me. And as you said earlier in the broadcast, the decision that legislators made to put that to the ballot, that is why I said yes to HJR 173 and 174. That is a voter's decision. And so that was not the decision that I felt I should make, yes or no. That needed to go to the ballot.
Yeah. Well, I want to close out on an issue that we really started the whole program with, and that is just sort of the flurry of attack ads and negative campaigning. You know, there are a lot of different ways to do campaign reform. There are a lot of different ways to attack finance. There are ways to attack what's said, but there's still a First Amendment that allows candidates and PACs to really say whatever they would like to. And so what do you see as a need in Missouri to make sure that the information that the voters are getting is accurate, that it's fair to the opponents that are running against these people, and again, so that the voters of Missouri can make a good, informed, well-rounded decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. Those are two words that I've heard a lot the last few weeks as we've watched a lot of these races get a little out of control and uncomfortable for voters. Campaign reform is something I continue to hear. And you're right, we do have a First Amendment right. I would like to see us be required to cite the source when we're making statements about other candidates. I think you should at least have to cite the source. If you're quoting someone's voting record, that's fine. Cite the source so that that's easily accessible. You know, I have a lot of senior citizens in my district who take everything they see maybe in the mail or on TV as true. And if we could at least refer to the source, where did you get that information? I think that's a good starting point for campaign reform. I also think, you know, I understand and people hate politics, honestly, for this reason, because it does get ugly and dirty at times. And I personally don't appreciate that. I think if you can't win and run on your own merit and your own policies, maybe you shouldn't be a public servant. And that's just the Melissa Schmidt opinion.
Yeah, and those are words that we go back and forth on. Everyone likes to use politician, but we do have this idea of public service. We do have this idea of leadership, and we are trying to choose our leaders who are public servants. And so for being here with us tonight and talking a little bit to our viewers, we thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to get back to election results here on Lebanon Now. We again thank Representative Schmidt for being with us and talking a little bit with us tonight. I do want to hit on some of the, again, kind of outlier races that we had talked about a little bit. The Republican primary for the Missouri 5th, we have Rick Bratton. This is going to be from NBC News at 8,396 votes to Taylor Burke's 5,830. Taylor Burke's, some of you may remember, as having run in the primary for the Missouri 4th District, which would have included Laclede County a few years ago. He started this race by loaning himself about $900,000 and really, I guess to put it kind of in simple terms, he really put his back into it. And so it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to eke out a victory in the primary tonight, again, to be able to run against sitting Congressman and longtime Congressman Emanuel Cleaver. We also have something that we have not touched on, the Missouri Representative District 136. And that is being run by J.C. Buckles, who is a Laclede County native, and J.C. is running for that unopposed in the Republican primary, but he's looking to unseat an incumbent Democrat. And so we're going to continue watching that tonight as we actually have 3 Laclede County natives running for state representative this year.
He's a graduate of Southwest Baptist University. He runs a couple of businesses up in the Springfield area. He's been very successful, and he is running unopposed, which is very odd in a Republican primary as such, with no Republican incumbent. And he will take on a Democrat in November that's already sitting in that seat and in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
As we continue to look at the results that are happening today, so far, I think the big surprises, and maybe not a big surprise, have been the overwhelming numbers that have knocked down Amendment number 4 and Amendment number 5. I think 5 was fairly predictable if you've kind of listened to people speak, but 4 I thought was on the fence, but evidently wasn't even close to the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first thing called of the night, 4 and 5 both. So it was, like you said, not overly surprising, but the margin was maybe a little bit more than we would have anticipated. I do want to talk also, as we're talking about those outlier races that aren't Laclede County specific, but we may have picked up some of the media on. State Senate District 6, we have a vote count there. Jake Vogel with 4,858, Ike Skelton with 4,763. As David had pointed out before, Ike being from Lebanon, having previously run for state representative for the district that included Laclede County and Camden County, but Jake Vogel narrowly eking out Ike Skelton right now, and then the third place, Rudy Veet, with 3,570 votes.
Full round of new results.
And we have a full round of new results that we're going to bring you, starting with the city transportation tax. That currently is at 1,677 yes and 625 no. So that is, again, something that's looking like that they are going to call and that it has passed. Again, David, one of those fundamentals of government, roads and bridges. The people of Lebanon want to make sure that our roads stay nice.
Road and bridges and public safety. And public safety initiatives, a lot of times with a tax, harder to pass, but once in place, if they have a sunset clause, they're easy to pass as well. People get used to paying that particular tax, see the results of that tax, and they're willing to pay that.
Yeah. We've got some more results on State Senate District 16. Hannah Kelly with 523 votes, Don Mayhew with 587, Bill Hardwick with 1,432, and then Philip Lohman with 150. So those are the State Senate race results that we have going on right now. In the 142nd Representative District, Jeff Brown with 639 votes, Royce Tuck with 183, and that will continue to come in as the night goes on. We also have the Missouri sales tax for parks and conservation, which major outlets are calling, has passed, and so that will continue, and of course being something that's going to benefit Bennett Springs State Park, which is near and dear to this area.
The constitutional amendment that we talked about, number 4, has failed. That's already been called. And the tax elimination of the income tax in the state of Missouri has also failed statewide. So again, those 2 initiatives drew a lot of the voters, I believe, and the voters have certainly spoken very loud regarding their thoughts on doing away with the income tax and then also changing the way the initiative petition works. Both of those amendments on the ballot were somewhat confusing. It will be interesting to see what the state legislature will do from this point on. As Scott Fitzpatrick said in an interview that was aired here, there's budget issues in the state of Missouri. In fact, on June 10th, he said the budget in Missouri is broken. So those that are elected to these positions in November, remember this is only the first step. Now some of them will be maybe have uncontested races up until November, but whoever wins in November, there's going to be a lot of work to do at the state capitol.
Yeah, and speaking of the state capitol and what that environment's going to look like, I've got here some results from the Secretary of State's office on District 20, which is the race between Curtis Trent, who is potentially going to be the next majority leader, and Lori Rook, and that is turning out to be neck and neck like a lot of people thought that it would. Curtis Trent currently with 2,526 votes, and Lori Rook with 2,130. There's been a lot of money expended on that. Even from the candidates themselves, there have been a lot of personal ads that have been put out on that, but that is going to be one that's very interesting to continue to watch, and that's only 14 of 68 precincts reporting. So there's still a lot of votes to be counted. And right now it's just neck and neck as to whether or not Senator Trent is going to keep his job.
And he is the, I think, the second in charge of the majority leader, I guess, vice majority leader, whatever you would want to call that, certainly in the running, if he would win tonight, to become the floor leader of the Senate. He doesn't win, that really shakes up things. And then the process, there is the political process behind the political process to find out who becomes the leaders out on the floor.
Sure. A reason he was recognized for being a potential leader in a formal sitting is because of the types of things that he was wanting to push for, the agenda that he brought forward that he wanted to see
Ozark
the Senate
Fiber,
enact.
we're not some giant out-of-town company.
It'll be interesting to see, like you said, who they find to replace him, because they will have, of course, their own agenda. But we're not calling that one yet, so let's not replace him quite yet.
Right.
But like you said, it will shake things up greatly. In a historic way for our state, it will change the direction that our state goes. And as Melissa and Jeff were both talking about, at a time where there are a lot of decisions to make.
We'll have more election coverage when we come back here on Lebanon Now.
I want something fun, still professional, something professionally fun.
It's okay to be particular.
Not too medium. More rare than medium, but still medium rare.
Especially with your insurance.
We need policies that
Help cover your house, cars, boat, and provide peace of mind.
Yes.
Exactly.
With Shelter Insurance, our agents help you design a plan that's particular to you for insurance that fits just right. Find a Shelter agent near you.
See Shelter Agent Kim Breeden or affiliate agents Crystal Thompson and Stephanie Esther in Lebanon today.
If you've never been to June and Beyond, let me tell you something. It's not just a boutique, it's an experience. This is the kind of place you can grab your girlfriends for a fun afternoon, try on half of the store, laugh a little too loud, and walk out feeling amazing. But it's also the place you can bring your mom, or your daughter, or all three of you together. Because June and Beyond truly has something for everyone.
Injured on the job? Call Dan the Man. Hiring the wrong attorney could cost you everything. Don't risk your future. Call Dan the Man at Deputy in Mizell.
I want something fun, still professional, something professionally fun.
It's okay to be particular.
not too medium. More rare than medium, but still medium rare.
Especially with your insurance.
We need policies that
Help cover your house, cars, boat, and provide peace of mind.
Yes.
Exactly.
With Shelter Insurance, our agents help you design a plan that's particular to you for insurance that fits just right. Find a Shelter agent near you.
See Shelter Agent Kim Breeden or affiliate agents Crystal Thompson and Stephanie Esther in Lebanon today.
If you've never been to June and Beyond, let me tell you something. It's not just a boutique, it's an experience. This is the kind of place you can grab your girlfriends for a fun afternoon, try on half of the store, laugh a little too loud, and walk out feeling amazing. But it's also the place you can bring your mom, or your daughter, or all three of you together. Because June and Beyond truly has something for everyone.
Injured on the job? Call Dan the Man. Hiring the wrong attorney could cost you everything. Don't risk your future. Call Dan the Man at Deputy in Mizell.
And we're back with Lebanon Now. We're going to be going through some of the results as they have already come in tonight. Just doing a quick recap. We'll start with State Senate District number 16, Hannah Kelly at 1,630 votes, Don Mayhew at 1,202, Bill Hardwick at 2,508, and Phil Lohman with 310. So that race is getting a little bit further out, but there are still several precincts that have yet to report. So that's where that Senate district sits as of now. The city transportation tax renewal has soundly passed, 1,677 votes for and 625 votes against. We have results from District 142. Again, Jeff Brown with 639 votes and Roy Stuck with 183. So that is where that race sits at this point. Constitutional Amendment number 1, which is the Parks and Conservation measure, has passed. So again, severely helping out Bennett Springs State Park in this area. We also have Amendment number 4, which has been called by all major networks that it has failed in the state of Missouri very soundly. The people have spoken very loudly on Amendment 4 and Amendment 5 in the same vein, failing very soundly across the state of Missouri. And so we'll continue to bring those results to you as they come in tonight.
And over in Camden County, with 17 of 18 precincts reporting, Lynn Brand, who is a Lebanon attorney living in Camden County, will be the new prosecutor. She got 58% of the vote to Rochelle Christensen Grosner's 41%. So Lynn Brand will become the prosecuting attorney over in Camden County starting on January 1st. There is no Democrat that is running, so she will have an opportunity, as I did when I won the sheriff's race, to kind of start working on things as early as August and as of tomorrow, probably. Start working things and getting ready for that transition.
Yeah, and that'll be a big life change, but it'll be nice. It'll be beneficial for the people of Camden County to have someone who will have so much work already under her belt when that process starts, or when that job starts, rather. We do have some updated numbers as well on that Senate district that encompasses Camden County, which is Senate District 6. Jake Vogel at 6,387 votes, Rudy Veit at 5,704. Ike Skelton at 5,459, so moving down into third place. Derek Spicer at 2,867, Lisa Thomas at 2,664, and Amber Buckles at 641. So again, David, a crowded field. We have a lot of votes that have already been counted across all of those candidates. And they've just updated them again. Jake Vogel still in the lead with about 7,600, but Ike Skelton moving up to the 7,000 number, and Rudy Veit actually jumping up to about 68-66. So again, in those races where there are so many people running, a lot of votes getting counted, and a lot of people nobody has a poor showing as far as this goes, but we do have some that are clearly identified as the front runners and most likely to come out on top there.
It's really tough when you get into those crowded races because of, obviously, it starts to divide that vote. And even somebody that was kind of an outlier of a candidate, didn't spend a lot of money, didn't get out and do a lot of work, they may draw 100 votes, and at the end of the night, that could be a big deal.
Yeah, and we're seeing just a totally different political landscape. Like you said, it's not necessarily about raising that money. Between AI ads, which we've seen quite a bit of, social media being a free way to get your message out to the people. Again, I think from the last financial reporting, Ike Skelton had raised about $15,000 for his race, but with free media like Facebook and cheap content like you can put together with AI for no cost, it's really not the dollars that are going to put out a good campaign. We do still have a lot of dollars in the attack ads like we've been talking about all night, but you can put a really good effort forward, as Ike Skelton is proving, with not a lot of funds.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, and I still have some ties in radio, but there was a time that you could win or lose an election based upon your use of radio ads or the local newspaper. And even back to 2016, which wasn't that long ago when I ran for sheriff, the newspaper and local radio took up a bulk of the money that I spent on that campaign. You're starting to see now, if you've got an iPhone and a Facebook page, you can do your own ads, and we're seeing a lot of that, and a lot of people getting their news, good or bad, from following candidates on Facebook. And I remember in 2016, Taylor, I had not used Facebook very much, but I used it a lot in that campaign. And then after I won the race of sheriff, not only the department Facebook page, but also the personal page really became big about getting things out to people and being transparent about things and letting people know what you're doing.
And David, I think it's so important. You have to meet the people where they are, and we've seen an increase of that. There's a generational divide as far as which social media a person might use. And so what have we seen is an increase, yes, of Facebook and maybe Instagram and Twitter and things like that. But friends that I've talked to have just been getting inundated with text messages, because it doesn't matter which social media platform you're on. They know you're on your phone. They know that you're going to pick it up whenever it buzzes. And so we're seeing an increase of that. Again, as the people are kind of dispersing in different ways, we have to find a way to meet them where they are, or the candidates have to find a way to meet them where they are. And it's really kind of a bold new world in that regard.
And don't forget the platform that we're on tonight, both on Facebook and YouTube, and the show that I do tomorrow morning that you'll join me at 9 o'clock. There's a shameless plug for Millsap in the morning at 9 o'clock, which is a live show. People are now using Lebanon Now as their focus to get news. And so this is a brand new era that if you're getting into politics, no matter what age you are, whether you be your age in your 30s or my age in your 60s, you better know how to use these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's where the people are. I do want to bring a result from, again, one of those kind of outlier races that the president actually had jumped in on just yesterday, and that is the Missouri primary for the 5th district, the congressional district. And NBC News is calling that for Rick Bratton, state senator from, I believe, Cass County. So that has been called. He's defeating Taylor Burks as well as several others who have entered into that race in an attempt to unseat Emmanuel Cleaver, the 12-term congressman from Kansas City. They do still have a general election race against Emmanuel Cleaver that they're going to have to run, and that's not going to be an easy thing. The margin of favorability for Republicans is there. They do have a good race to run, but Emmanuel Cleaver is not an unpopular person in Kansas City, and so that will be one, again, that I do believe is going to garner some national attention as one of these newly redrawn districts.
I wouldn't be surprised in just following the political tenor of things, is that we do not see President Trump get involved in that, and maybe a trip to that district to garner support for the Republican candidate, because that will become an interesting seat to try to capture after the redistricting of congressional sections in the state of Missouri.
And David, I'm sure that you remember several years ago what they called a 7-1 map was discussed, right? And it was determined to be maybe not the most prudential thing to go after. President Trump intervened and said that he wanted to try to get that 7-1 map drawn. The legislature went ahead, they did that, and so I do think that you can look forward to President Trump visiting Missouri to solidify that again, quote, 7-1 map actually does turn into a real 7-1 map with 7 Republicans in the congressional delegation from Missouri. But like we said before, if you think that you've seen some attack ads so far up in the Kansas City market, you guys are about to see quite a few.
Stand by.
Yeah, that's right.
The AP has called Scott Fitzpatrick as a nominee for state auditor, a Republican nominee. Keep your eye on Scott Fitzpatrick. I think that he's an up-and-comer in the Republican Party. I wouldn't be surprised as time goes on that you don't see Scott Fitzpatrick running for the state capitol as the governor. And it would not be odd for somebody that's held the position of auditor to end up as the governor. The first one that comes to mind is Kip Bond.
Kip Bond, and then actually the auditor after Kip Bond being John Ashcroft. So it is a position that we have seen people rise to the governor's office from. Absolutely. There's another race that we have not talked about quite as much tonight that we have in Laclede County been able to get a little bit of media on, and that is the replacement for Sandy Crawford, who is the senator from the 28th district. Dr. Sam Alexander with 9,017 votes in that race. Brad Pollitt, a state representative from Sedalia, with 6,020, and Chuck Lentz, a professor at Southwest Baptist, with 1,954. That's one that we may not touch on again for the rest of the night. That may be one that we bring to you tomorrow morning. But again, we've gotten some of that. We're in that media market. And of course, with the tie that we have to Senator Crawford, we wanted to bring that information to you tonight, as it looks like Dr. Alexander is doing very well. The estimated vote in on that one is 43, so there's still room for it to be anybody's race, but that is where it sits as of now.
And we can pretty much call the next one that will come up. We'll call this one for State Representative, District 142, Dr. Jeff Brown with 2,658 votes. Royce Tuck with 101, or 801 rather. So Dr. Jeff Brown will go on to the November election to face the Democrat in Josh Ray, 2,658 votes. Really a strong showing by Dr. Jeff Brown.
Yeah, and we saw Jeff out and about, similar to what I discussed with those Senate candidates. If you were at any major event, you were likely to see them. Again, just engaging with the voters, seeing what was important to the people of this area. And like you said, Jeff is going to go on and be up against former Mayor Josh Ray, and that'll be an interesting race. We talked about this, I think, a little bit, maybe it was just in private conversation, but about there are more Democrats running this go around. Melissa Schmidt has a Democratic opponent from down in Wright County. Dr. Jeff Brown is going to have a Democratic opponent. And so we're seeing a Democratic Party that does seem to want to move forward. They want to put themselves out in front of the voters to make their pitch, which has not always been the case. It's not always been that there was a Democratic candidate running in Laclede County for these positions. So I am interested in what that race is going to look like moving forward, to hear the Democrats and the pitch that they have to make for rural Missouri.
And Senate seat 16 will have a Democrat opponent as well. Currently, that race looks like this: Bill Hardwick with 2,508 votes, Hannah Kelly with 1,630 votes, Don Mayhew with 1,202 votes, and Philip Lohman with 310. So that race is starting to widen. I think that probably too early to call, because I'm not sure how many precincts that we've got reporting, but it looks like from the results that we have right now that that race is starting to go to one candidate.
David, I'm seeing that the estimated vote total in that is 22.8%. So there's still a lot of votes to be counted in that Senate race. A very important seat, replacing, of course, Senator Justin Brown from Phelps County. But we'll pay very close attention to that, as that is going to be.
And the two counties that really make the difference in that race, Laclede County and Phelps County. And Pulaski County, you could assume somewhat split, because Hardwick and Mayhew both representatives from Pulaski County. So really, Laclede County and Phelps County are the two counties that probably make the difference in that race. And Hardwick may have a slight edge in that he's an attorney that works out of an office out of Raleigh. So we'll see how all that ends up.
Oh, wow, there's no...
Again, the income tax vote to go to a sales tax, what was known as Amendment Number 5, has failed in the state of Missouri. And the initiative petition, Amendment Number 4, has also failed in the state of Missouri.
David, I do want to touch on this, because as I'm looking at just different results from all over, the House race between Ben Rudy and Keith Pritchard, which is Pulaski County, we don't have any results from there. And so we do have a significant amount for our state Senate race that are still going to come from that representative district over there in Pulaski County. So that is an area, like you said, that's going to be largely split, presumably between the two representatives from that area, Mayhew and Hardwick. And so it'll be interesting to see which direction they go, if they could pull Mayhew back up into a contender spot.
I know that you had the opportunity to talk to former Governor Parson. We saw a little bit of that interview, and we'll have more of that interview when we come back on Lebanon Now.
Well, we started
something
AAA
fun.
Plumbing in 2024 in
Something
Lebanon.
professionally fun.
I was born and raised here. We wanted to provide an experience with plumbing like nobody'd ever seen. Our motto is to set the standard, and we truly believe we do that with the customer. We take care of jobs from start to finish, and we're not looking for a one and done. We want repeat customers. We also set out with the goal to provide good paying trade jobs for local people here in Lebanon, somewhere they'd be proud to work and be able to make a living and provide for their family.
So I'm going to tell a secret about myself. There's something that you may not know about me, and that a lot of people who do know me don't know about me. But now that I'm here in the pawn shop, I'm going to let the secret out. I'm a little nervous about this, because I've never done this on camera. And I don't necessarily want to embarrass myself, but a lot of you may not know that I don't know how to play the guitar. I don't know anything about guitars. But what I do know is there's a bunch of them here. And there's a bunch of really nice guitars here. And there's a bunch of people around here who play the guitar. And if you're looking for a new one, you should come in and see what we have, because there's some nice stuff here.
Pete doesn't know how to play guitar, but maybe you do.
And welcome back to Lebanon Now. We're going to do a quick recap of the elections as those results have come in through the night. And we're going to start with State Representative for District 142. Lebanon Now is calling that for Dr. Jeff Brown. We are calling that he is going to win that primary and move on to the general election, where he will face former Lebanon Mayor Josh Ray. We also have the city transportation tax renewal, which soundly passed as a really bread and butter issue of, as David has said, public safety and transportation. We have the Missouri sales tax for parks and conservation, which has passed as well. Moving on then to amendment number 4, which was soundly defeated. The people of Missouri spoke very loudly on that issue and have decided that they were a strong no. Missouri Amendment Issue number 5, which was the elimination of the income tax in a phase-in of a sales tax, similarly soundly defeated across the state tonight as those numbers have come in. State Senate District 16 is looking currently like Hannah Kelly has 1,919 votes. Representative Don Mayhew has 1,645. Representative Bill Hardwick with 3,080 votes, and Philip Lohman with 379 votes. So we'll continue to monitor that over the night as those come in, as well as we're looking to replace our local state senator.
Taylor Howe had the opportunity to visit with Governor Mike Parson, the former governor of the state of Missouri, a resident of Polk County, a former sheriff of Polk County. He worked his way up from sheriff to state representative, state senator, lieutenant governor, and then the governor of the state of Missouri. Here's that interview that Taylor conducted with him.
Hi, I'm Taylor Howe with Lebanon Now, and we are delighted to be not only joined but hosted today by the 57th governor of the state of Missouri, Mike Parson. Governor Parson, thank you for having us in the 57 Foundation.
Great to have you here today, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. So this interview is going to premiere, parts of it, on election night, August 4th, 2026. And you have had your name on the ballot several times. And so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions just as a person about election night.
Sure.
So you started running for a local office, a sheriff.
Yes.
And ran all the way up to the big office,
Yeah.
which isn't just a term. The governor's office is a massive room.
Yeah.
What changed over those successive elections, and what was the same about election night? What didn't change?
You know, I think if you go back to your first elections in the political arena, you always probably is the most important election, I would say, that I've ever had on a personal basis. Now, granted, I was very proud to be the governor of the state of Missouri, but the first time you run and you put your name on the ballot, you're now running on totally on who you are. And when you become the sheriff of Polk County at the time, what people are trusting you to take care of them, to make sure they're safe. And I think, to me, these are the people you go to church with, these are the people your kids go to school with, these are the people you see at the grocery store, and all of a sudden they're saying, hey, we got enough faith in you to make a good sheriff. So I think that first election was probably the most humbling election that I really had, because you were so close to the people that were voting for you. And as you move up the ladder, as to whether it's the House or the Senate or statewide, it's very difficult to know people like you know people in that first election, and you win those elections. So I think you have the basic fundamentals of running for office on the local level, and then the further you go up, it's a little harder to be really in touch with the people like you was at home.
Okay. You famously never lost an election. Every time your name's been on the ballot, you came out victorious. How does that shape your election night? Does that make you more nervous as you go along and there could always be that first? Or is that something where you think you actually did gain some confidence that the people have affirmed you over and over again and you're the right guy for the job?
Yeah, you know what? I think one of the things you have to do is be a good listener. And I think that's an art that's maybe lost in the political arena some today. But the people that really listen to the everyday people and understand what it is they want, and can you deliver what it is they want? Don't make false promises if you can't make them. But I think the whole concept is just be what it is they want. You know, be who you are. You know, I tell people all the time, the worst mistake you'll ever make is trying to be somebody you're not. So if you're not the smartest guy in the room, don't try to be the smartest guy in the room. If you're not the prettiest guy around or a girl, don't try to be. You know, just be who you are and be fundamentally, so people will feed off of that and to say, hey, I like the guy because I think he's the real guy. You know, he's like me. And I think you strive to do that. And then I think one of the things I've always had confidence in, I never, ever believed anybody would outwork me. I mean, I just had that old basic roots of hard work. And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to be the guy sitting at the breakfast table the next morning and say,
interview with Governor Parson. We'll come back to that later, but we want to bring you up-to-date results on District 16. Hannah Kelly has come into the lead with 4,457 votes. Don Mayhew with 1,948 votes. Bill Hardwick down now in second place with 4,335 votes, and Philip Lohman with 455. So the state of the race has changed. Hannah Kelly has started to take the lead in that, which it was not looking like it was going to go that direction before that interview started. And so we've seen a major shift in favor of Kelly.
And it would be interesting to know, we don't have the access to that because we're getting this off the state page, is where those votes came from. I would suspect that she did very well in Laclede County. She did very well in Wright County, but somewhere she's picking up votes, whether that's in Marys County, which we've not really talked about, and Dent County, which is very rural, and I would think that she would have a really good opportunity to pick up votes over in Dent County, the Salem area, that she would be somewhat popular over there because of her ties over into Wright County.
And as we talked about the Representative District 121 with Keith Pritchard and Ben Rudy, we still don't have any results for that being the Pulaski County area. And so an area that is going to have some heavy Hardwick and Mayhew influence. If Mayhew does better than Hardwick in that area, Kelly could still end up being in the lead even after their home county reports.
You know, and you bring that up, and I've seen elections, and you have too, where you may have won one or two precincts, but you finished second or third, a strong third in other precincts, and because of a crowded field, you end up winning, though you did not win that many precincts.
Yeah, it's still very much anybody's race in this Senate district. Again, Hannah Kelly with 4,457, Don Mayhew 1948, and Bill Hardwick with 4,335. We are really neck and neck in our own Senate district to see who is going to be the Republican nominee. Just a quick reminder, we've said this throughout the night, but nobody gets a job tonight. This is a primary where the parties are putting forward nominees for the general election. So whoever wins in tonight's primary for that 16th Senate district is going to have a general contestant from Richland, Virginia Staub, who is going to be, you know, like I said, presenting the Democratic vision for what the Senate district could be.
You know, and we talked about this, Millsap, in the morning, which you can join us at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning live as we recap all of this. But we talked about, I can't remember in recent history, you may have to go back all the way to the 1940s, in which this area sent somebody that was a Democrat as a state representative, and I don't recall a Democrat senator from this area as well. So it's an uphill battle for Democrats. They're very aware of that. Just to look at Laclede County and all the offices in Laclede County held by Republicans. The office that I held, the office of sheriff, with only 3 Democrats in 65 years. So it is very much, as we know, a very Republican area. Democrats have an uphill battle, but starting to put people on the ballot, and so you don't know where that's going. And I would imagine in the race for state representative, in the race for state senate, that you may see the state Democrat Party put some money into that.
And David, to seek to learn what the people of this district are interested in, what of the Democratic platform are people in this district willing to accept? It's not something where they expect to win maybe this go around or the next go around, but they can build that relationship with the people of the district to be able to say the Republicans have been in power here for a great deal of time. They've been representing you for a great deal of time, and we think we have more to offer than they do. That's not something that I think that they believe they're going to be able to change overnight, but it is something that they are putting the work in to begin. One more race that I want to get to is the 20th Senate District, which is that Curtis Trent-Lori Rook. Curtis Trent now at 8728 and Lori Rook at 9,566. So she is eked ahead with 52.3% of the vote and 61% of those precincts reporting. So again, still a neck and neck race, but Lori Rook ahead there by about 800 votes, doing very well in a very heated race.
It's interesting that with Lori Rook, and of course she ran for a statewide office a couple of years ago and lost, kind of a firebrand type of person to come in. It'll be interesting how she's received coming in, having beat, if she ends up winning that race, beating a Curtis Trent, who has some support to be one of the leaders on the floor of the Senate. And then she comes in. It'd be interesting to see what that reception looks like, and then how she is able to kind of integrate herself into the politics behind the politics once you get to Jeff City.
Yeah, it relies a great deal on relationships, and whenever you've started your relationship with everyone there by removing their potential majority leader, how are you going to be received? And it'll be interesting also for Senator Trent, who's already been a state representative. I know you talked a little bit earlier about term limits. His only option for a political revival would either be to run for a statewide office or to come back and try to run against Lori Rook, or if a Democrat would win in that race in November, to run against them in 4 years. He does not have the opportunity to go back and continue to, offer leadership to the House. That has been removed because of term limits. So it'll be interesting to see, should he not prevail tonight, what his next step might be. And it may be to get out of the political arena altogether.
Again, just goes through some of those things that we already know. The income tax elimination amendment, Constitutional Amendment number 5, failed by a lot in the state of Missouri. The city transportation renewal, it passed here in the city of Lebanon, so that tax will continue. And I think they've now made that a 10-year tax, so that will not come up as often, which is really a relief to the city. It helps them with long-term planning. We have declared Jeff Brown the winner as State Representative District 142. Melissa Schmidt, by the way, in District 141, had no opposition. I found it interesting in the absentee voting. Melissa got 100% of the vote of people that went to the ballot. That doesn't always occur. Often you will see somebody on the ballot, people will skip over it because they're not running against somebody, or they don't like that person, so they don't vote. You see them a lot of times with 89 or 90%. Rarely do you see somebody get 100%, which I think probably sends a message. She is a tough campaigner, and Swafford out of Mountain Grove, who will run as a Democrat, Mike Swafford, he'll have his work cut out for him as he takes on Melissa Schmidt.
And you talked a little bit with Representative Knight about speaking back to the community, getting information from those local experts on specific issues. And Melissa is also someone who does a very good job with that. She does not pretend like she knows everything, but she knows a guy. And she's been very good about reaching back into the district for issues that affect real people, real constituents of hers, to see what their thoughts are on legislation that is going to affect them.
We keep looking at Senate seat District 16. Hannah Kelly now with the lead at 4,457 votes. Very tight race. Bill Hardwick with 4,335. Don Mayhew with 1,948. And Philip Lohman has garnered out 455 votes. So, again, we don't know exactly where we're at with the number of precincts reporting in that. Estimated at about 43% of all precincts have voted in District 16.
A quick touch on our congressional district, District 4. Mark Alford it's been called that he will be the Republican nominee. Again, he is the sitting congressman for the 4th District. The 4th District was also a little bit carved into to create, again, this 7-1 map. And so the Democratic margin has actually increased to where it should be a little bit closer of a race in November. And so I want to touch on the Democratic primary really quick. Jordan Herrera at 13,741 votes and Hartzell Gray at 13,149. Now, there are several other candidates who are have far fewer votes that they have garnered. Hartzell Gray is that candidate that we kind of mentioned at the very top of the program, that Democrat who is more aligned with the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Currently only about 600 votes behind, could potentially eke out a victory as the Democratic nominee. So Mark Alford may be running against a Democratic Socialist for the Missouri 4th. That would be a very interesting thing, especially in a district that, 16 years ago was represented by Ike Skelton, and you go from that to potentially being represented by a Democratic Socialist.
And it's interesting you bring that up, and I think, and I obviously not speaking for Mark Alford, but if I'm sitting in Alford's position, if David Millsap's in that position, he couldn't be more pleased.
Is that an announcement?
That is not an
Okay.
announcement. That you're going to run against a member of the Socialist Party representing the Democrats. It'll be interesting to see how the Democrats in the Kansas City area are receptive to that. In many outlying parts of Jackson County, Cass County, well, Cass County won't be part of that, but the Democrats are in that area will often describe themselves as moderate or conservative Democrats. And it will see where he'll draw votes from taking on Mark Alford, who's, by the way, a former news anchor in the Kansas City area, very popular. And it'll be interesting just to look at that race as we do other races nationally with this new movement within the Democratic Party.
Something I think that would be interesting about that as well, again, she's currently in second place, so not winning. But if we did have a Democratic Socialist, it would be interesting to see how they would run in a rural area. We've seen some other Democratic Socialists who have won races statewide or congressional races, maybe in something like New York City. But what would a rural Democratic Socialist run on? What would be the issues that they would speak to this district? Again, running in second place, but very close, it may not happen. But I think that would actually be kind of interesting to see how that message, how the Democratic Socialist message would change for this part of Missouri as opposed to, again, a New York City or Michigan or where have you.
I remember George Will, the Republican pundit, columnist, who after the election in New York City said that he was glad to see a socialist win there because when it fails, that'll put an end to that movement. So it's interesting how Republicans think of that. That is going on. State Senate District 6, as we look at it, Jake Vogel with 9,157 votes. Ike Skelton with 7,738 votes. The rest of the field was fairly close. Derek Spicer with 4,178, Lisa Thomas with 3,751 votes in that race. Rudy V with 8,959 votes. So Ike Skelton, who had ties to Lebanon, we talked about that, is in third place in that election. And I think that's close to probably being called as well. Camden County has already got all their precincts called in, but that takes in a fairly wide area. I think Morgan County is part of that as well as part of Jefferson City.
Excuse me. Yeah, we have a 16 update as well. The Senate district that includes Laclede County. Hannah Kelly at 6,530 votes. Don Mayhew at 3,070. Bill Hardwick at 6,396. Still neck and neck between Hardwick and Kelly, and Philip Lohman with 707. So we have those new vote totals. We've got about 65% of the votes counted. We don't have any major outlets calling that race yet, as again, it's still neck and neck. This has been a hard-fought race. This has been between three people who have wanted it about as much as I can tell that they've wanted anything in their lives, and they've gone to Laclede County to make their pitch.
And they have, and that race looked like Bill Hardwick was kind of pulling away, and then Hannah Kelly somewhere garnered a lot of votes. And it'd be interesting to see that breakdown, and I'm still going to probably throw it out that, the split in Pulaski County makes a big difference, and we don't know exactly what that looks like.
Nothing.
But you have two people from Pulaski County running, so you know that's going to split that vote some. You would think that Kelly would have done well here in Laclede County. Again, we don't have the exact numbers of that she would have carried her home county of Wright County. And then in Dent County, which is a rural area around the Salem area, my guess is that she would have done well there. So maybe that's where those votes are coming for, and that's just a guess on my part. But it is interesting how that race has really kind of turned. And as you said, really pretty much at this point, too close to call, even with 65% of the vote in. And I'll let you make that call when that time comes.
Okay, thanks. Touching back on Senate District 20, which we have talked about in the Springfield area, Lori Rook and Curtis Trent. Lori Rook continues to widen that gap with about 84% of the votes in. She is at 13,222, and Curtis Trent sitting at 11,720. So we've got a decent gap there of about 1,500 votes that Lori Rook is currently winning by. You know, whenever you come to run for the state Senate, after having come off of a statewide, you do have a base of support. You have a base of dollars that you can draw from outside of your Senate district to be able to put on a campaign in the way that Lori Rook has. And so it's no surprise that she put up a real fight. But Curtis Trent has put up a fight as well and is still in this as far as all the major outlets are concerned at about 53 to 47 for Lori Rook. It's hard to say that it's anybody's race, but it's still too close to call.
You know, sometimes it's addition by subtraction. When you run a political race and you end up losing, that you've actually gained some ground for your future in politics. And as we talked about, I think, on our show on Wednesdays, is that there's not been very many major politicians who have not suffered a loss somewhere down the line, who've rebounded from that. We used the name Kip Bond, talking about auditor. Kip Bond was governor, lost, came back, ended up in the United States Senate. So we've seen that time and time again, that sometimes it's addition by subtraction.
And it's just a matter of getting back up on the horse. In fact, this has nothing to do with elections, but it was a thing that I read this week, and it was about Harry Truman's grandson. And he said, I remember as a young boy, I was riding on my rocking horse at my grandfather's feet. And he said, I fell off the back, and I leaned forward to decide if I was going to cry or not. And here came my grandma to hug me. And Harry Truman says, stop right there. Boy, get back up on that horse. And that's the advice that Harry Truman gave to that little 3-year-old is the same advice that a lot of politicians need. And it stings to come off of a loss. But if you get back up on that horse, there's really no telling where you could end up.
And Harry Truman ended up being a United States Senator and then the President of the United States, and lost an election for commissioner in Jackson County. We'll be back right after this.
We've got some.
Okay. We're not going to be back right after this. We have some comments.
All right.
Vanessa Rubel, thank you very much.
We've got Becky Reed loving the coverage. Well, Becky, we appreciate you watching tonight. It's fun to be able to bring local election coverage in a way that Lebanon is so used to, and to be able to keep that going. Ashley Bayhan, great job. David and Taylor, appreciate the updates. That's what we're here for. We've got from Connie Welch, thank you for giving us local news. You know, David, again, local news is the news that affects us the most. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be bringing people information that is relevant to their lives, immediately relevant to how they live every day.
Melinda Fries with This is Amazing. Thank you for providing this to our community. And Jonathan Reagan. Nice to have local election results like this. Keep up the good work. We appreciate all those comments.
I think I saw a question in there, a question in the comments. No?
No, you didn't.
Okay. All right.
No, you didn't.
All right. All right.
Hold on, let me get rid of that and we're going to go for it.
Okay, I do want to bring Senate District 28 has been called by KY3 for Sam Alexander. That is Senate Senator Crawford's seat, who used to be the senator for Laclede County. Dr. Sam Alexander beating out Representative Brad Pollitt from Sedalia handily. Sam Alexander with 15,109 votes, Brad Pollitt with 7,805, and Chuck Lentz with 5,303. Chuck Lentz not even playing the role of the fly in the ointment there. That difference between Alexander and Pollitt is huge.
And a surprise, and I think without a doubt, those that have followed politics in this area, that's an upset.
Absolutely.
We'll be back to recap and check in on the one of the senators.
And we're going to be back right after this here on Lebanon Now.
I'm Jeremy Goforth.
And I'm Holly Goforth, and we're with Legacy Homes. So this house sits in Legacy Trails. This is a 68-acre subdivision that sits right next to Ashley Park. Approximately 127 lots that we will be building on. What's unique about this subdivision is that we're connecting Ashley Park's trails into our subdivision that will go through our subdivision and connect back to the park.
The Legacy Trails, we have all kinds of homes. The minimum is 1,500 square foot, high efficiency, new construction homes. If you're interested in this house or any other home in Legacy Trails, we have 10 house plans available. Contact Legacy Homes at
417-718-1962 or 417-718-2051, and don't forget to look us up on Facebook.
Have you been hurt? Call Dan the Man. Calling the wrong attorney could cost you everything. Don't risk your future. Call Dan the Man at Deputy in Mizell.
Now with Lebanon Now, and we'll do a quick recap of the results that we have for tonight so far, and we'll start with that Senate District 16, the Senate District for Laclede County. Hannah Kelly at 6,530 votes, Don Mayhew at 3,070, Bill Hardwick at 6,396, and Philip Lohman with 707. We have for the 142nd Representative District called that for Dr. Jeff Brown, who will go on to face former Mayor Josh Ray to be the state representative. The tax renewal for the city transportation tax has passed. That is something that the people of Lebanon have decided to keep going for another 10 years at least. The income tax elimination and sales tax changes, which is Amendment 5, soundly failed across the state, one of the earliest calls of the night. Moving on then to Amendment 4, requiring congressional district approval for initiated constitutional amendments, again, soundly defeated across the state. That will go back to the drawing board, and I would anticipate something being brought back to the voters that's worded maybe a little bit differently, as initiative petition reform has been something that's been worked on in Jefferson City and been a known problem for quite some time. Amendment 2, the requiring of a county assessor for Jackson County, passing across the state tonight. So Jackson County will join the other 114 counties of Missouri in having an assessor put in place. We also have an update for you on Senate District 6, which is covering Camden County. We've seen a lot of their media that has come out there. Jake Vogel at 10,095 votes. Rudy Veet at 9,329, Ike Skelton with 8,606, Derek Spicer with 4,793, and then Lisa Thomas at 4,100, and Amber Buckles at 988. That is with 95% of the precincts reporting. Still a very close race, and so that has not been called by any outlets as of yet, but that has been a very contentious Senate race, and it will be interesting to see where that lands.
In Camden County, and we talked about this earlier, Lynn Brand, who has a law office here in Lebanon, will be the new prosecutor over in Camden County. By the way, Jeff Brown got 77% of the Camden County vote in his election for District 142, 639 votes over there. Roy Stuck got 22% of the vote over in Camden County, as that district not only has Laclede County in it, but all of Dallas County and a part of Camden County, best described as that area around Max Creek.
Lori Rook, also with a law office here in town, running for the State Senate District 20, 13,919 votes for Lori Rook against the potential majority floor leader, Senator Curtis Trent, the sitting senator for that district, with 12,347 votes. So again, with 88% of that district reporting, 53 to 47%. You've already brought up the Senate district where Senator Crawford currently sits, with Dr. Sam Alexander coming away with a major victory. You called that earlier an upset, and potentially in Southwest Missouri looking at another upset with Lori Rook against Curtis Trent.
It is interesting to look at the political races, and especially when somebody takes on somebody that's been in political office and has a record to back themselves up. And as we know, some of these races got to be very contentious and a lot of negative ads. And again, you go back to, as much as we say we just test those ads, we have a hard time looking away. Mm-hmm. And it's often like, and I'll use the analogy of driving by a car wreck. We don't want to see it, but we look. And so that seems to be kind of what happens in some of these races where we see that negative advertising.
Yeah, I'm trying to find on the state site, District 121, which is with Keith Pritchard and Ben Rudy. That is a state representative district in Pulaski County. I'm still not seeing any results for that, so I'm looking on the state website to find those results, because those results are going to play very much into our 16th Senate district results. I'm surprised that we don't have anything out of that district as of yet. But as we said at the very top of the program, this has been a heavy night for voting in Missouri. A lot of votes cast, a lot of people going out and making their voices heard on Amendments 4 and 5. And so it is taking a little bit of time to get some of these districts.
So we have an update for State Senate District 16 now, and it's changed again. Bill Hardwick with 7,750 votes. Hannah Kelly with 7,164 votes. Don Mayhew with 4,064, and Philip Lohman with 859. So as you look at that race now, again, the leader has flipped. We can pretty much we won't be able to call that race. We've got 80% of the vote in, and Hardwick with 39% of the vote, 36% of the vote so far for Hannah Kelly. So that is a tight race. You could probably rule Mayhew out of the race, but every vote he gets in one of those precincts in one of these counties, whether it be Marys County, Phelps County, Dick County, may decide that race.
And looking at Keith Pritchard and Ben Rudy's race, that 121, there's 5 precincts. So obviously, with it being so close, it could come down to one of those 5 precincts. But just, you know, for a political junkie, this is so exciting to have a race that's so close, that so much effort has been put into. But I imagine if you're Bill Hardwick or Hannah Kelly specifically, this back and forth is not particularly fun.
You know, there's a lot of nerves on election night, and as you've poured in not only money, but you pour in a lot of time. And we talked about how these candidates have spent a lot of time just in our neighborhood in Laclede County. You really, when you run for office, it's actually the running for office I found enjoyable. I enjoyed going out, meeting the people, listening to the people, going out and having an opportunity to visit with them. But election night is a lot of nerves. And, again, I fall back on the fact that in Laclede County, a lot of times you know the outcome of an election by what the absentee votes did. And I was on the interstate ready to go to Phillipsburg picking up signs, because if I had lost, I didn't want any signs to remind me that I had even run when it came out and we had won the absentee ballots by a lot. And I looked at Tammy, my wife, and told her we're going to win this election. So it got over with quickly. But on the other side of that, Taylor, in the late early 90s, 91 or 92, somewhere around in there, I lost an election, won an election by 4 votes on school board, lost an election the next time, not by very many. I don't recall the spread, but, you're waiting around to see what that looks like.
Yeah. You're already nervous. You put yourself out in front of the people, and then to find that the people are pretty evenly split on whether or not they want you in office. Like you said, there's nerves, there's fear. can't imagine all the emotions that really go into an election night, especially again on something like our Senate district that is so evenly split. We're going to continue bringing you those results. Again, still waiting for Pulaski County numbers to come in, which could really be decisive. If Hannah Kelly places in a strong third or second place, we expect those to be fairly evenly split between the two Pulaski County natives, to where that could do enough for Kelly to push her over the top.
You could easily win that race as it stands now by getting about 40% of the vote. Or 41% of the vote. So it'll be interesting where we go with that. We're going to get close to a break here, and then we'll come back and recap some other races, and we'll do that when we come back after this on Lebanon Now.
Well, we started AAA Plumbing in 2024 in Lebanon. I was born and raised here. We wanted to provide an experience with plumbing like nobody had ever seen. Our motto is to set the standard, and we truly believe we do that with the customer. We take care of jobs from start to finish, and we're not looking for a one and done. We want repeat customers. We also set out with the goal to provide good paying trade jobs for local people here in Lebanon, somewhere they'd be proud to work and be able to make a living and provide for their family.
So I'm going to tell a secret about myself. There's something that you may not know about me, and that a lot of people who do know me don't know about me. But now that I'm here in the pawn shop, I'm going to let the secret out. I'm a little nervous about this because I've never done this on camera, and I don't necessarily want to embarrass myself, but a lot of you may not know that I don't know how to play the guitar. I don't know anything about guitars. But what I do know is there's a bunch of them here. And there's a bunch of really nice guitars here. And there's a bunch of people around here who play the guitar. And if you're looking for a new one, you should come in and see what we have, because there's some nice stuff here.
Pete doesn't know how to play guitar, but maybe you do.
Welcome back to Lebanon Now. Looking at the results for the Senate District 20, which is Lori Rook and Curtis Trent. Lori Rook currently at about 15,000. She's got 14,997 to Curtis Trent's 13,455. At the top of the program, David, we talked about the Secretary of State's estimate of how many people he thought were going to vote. And they estimated up to 1.4 million voting. And it looks like, from what we can see with the statewide vote that has already been counted, that we are going to hit that number. And what we're seeing, like with the Lori Rook race and even with the Sam Alexander race over in the Bolivar, Sedalia, Buffalo area, the folks like Brad Pollitt and Curtis Trent, who put 4 and 5 on the ballot, there has been a response to them personally, not just to the issues that they're putting up. The voters are responding by not just saying, we don't like this issue, we may not think that you need to continue on. I think that that's a very interesting trend that's happening tonight. Again, we talked about how certain issues can change the entire climate, and I think for those two specifically, that's very much been the case.
And I truly believe that 4 and 5 is why we've had such a huge turnout voter-wise statewide, over 1 million people that have turned out to vote in a primary election. And I think at least you're glad to see people excited about going to the polls, even if they don't vote the way you want them to vote, or it doesn't carry in one way or the other. At least they're getting out and voting. And I also wonder if it does not send a message, and I don't know that this is a good message, of if you put something on the ballot we don't like, it may cost you a race. And, you know, that idea of that we're going to put something out on the ballot to give the people the opportunity to speak about it and vote on it, then all of a sudden we're looking at you and saying, you know, you shouldn't have done that. And that's almost a scary way of looking at things, I think.
Yeah, I think, again, in just conversations that I've had with people about this election, about the issues that have been on the ballot, there is some feeling that the legislature should be taking care of this stuff and not necessarily bringing it to the people, which is a little bit surprising to me. That democracy has been kind of shut down a little bit, almost, in the idea of we expect the legislatures to legislate and to work this out themselves. And if you're going to bring us solutions that we really don't care for, we're not just going to push those to the side. We may push you to the side as well. And that's going to be interesting as we continue to follow in our Senate District 16 results, as we have Bill Hardwick, who is a current state representative, as well as Don Mayhew, a current state representative, who are running. Two guys who would have taken votes on these ballot initiatives, on putting these forward to the people. We'll see if the people will respond in the same way that they have in Senate District 20, as well as Senate District 28.
As we look at, if Ryan will put 16 back up on the screen to where I can see that, and we've got that. Bill Hardwick now with 7,750 votes, and Hannah Kelly with 7,164 votes. And I think, Ryan, I saw that may be with about 80% of the voters. So about 80% now in, and Hardwick with a lead of 7,750 to Kelly's 7,164 with 80% going in. I think if we were working nationally, they might call that race, and I'm not comfortable doing that.
No, not at all. Especially, like we said, there are local representative districts that haven't put out any results yet. Representative districts that are going to be very decisive in this race. I'm still kind of scratching my head about that, honestly. The one District 121 with Ben Rudy and Keith Pritchard, that we don't have any results, not even the absentee ballots in that race have been reported yet. And so this is, like we said, Laclede County played a very important role in this. We saw the candidates here. We saw them pushing hard. We saw them, just climb every mountain. But their home back in Pulaski County for Hardwick and for Mayhew, we don't have any results from. So if Hannah Kelly could split them up, we're not comfortable calling it because it really does belong to anybody at this point. I do want to go back up. We'll touch a little bit on Senate District 6. Jake Vogel still at 10,095. Ike Skelton at 86,100. Rudy Veit with 9329, Derek Spicer at 4793, Lisa Thomas 4100, and Amber Buckles at 988. That's with 95% reported, and that is still not a race that has been called as of yet. So that could be anybody's. Again, Ike Skelton with his ties here to Laclede County. We've been watching it for that reason. And then again, we'll go back up and find Senate District 20. If we can here, which is Lori Rook and Curtis Trent, who was kind of slated to be maybe the next majority leader of the Senate. We're still at about 15,000 for Lori Rook and Curtis Trent at 13,455. So 96% of those votes counted, but still a little bit too close to call for Lori Rook at this point, coming off of her lieutenant governor's run.
It might explain that how important that Senate majority role is, because nothing gets to committee or gets to be voted on unless you've got that person behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said tonight, it will be interesting to see how Jeff City shifts, how it adapts. And you said how it receives maybe a potentially Senator Lori Rook, but how it receives the information that is garnered from tonight. It's going to be a little bit of a mess between now and January, just figuring out between now and November, figuring out what the Republicans are going to run on. Something interesting, though, as we've talked about Scott Fitzpatrick, which you interviewed on your Wednesday morning show, Millsap in the Morning. Scott Fitzpatrick came out very vocally for this, being the only statewide officer running. and 85% of the vote to 14.6. Now, being a sitting statewide, it's pretty tough to get beat.
Yeah.
But with Amendment 4 and 5 being as soundly defeated as they were, I am a little bit surprised that Fitzpatrick has run away with this. But again, to your point, that just positions him well to maybe take on another office at the statewide level.
And he will have a Democratic opponent, and the two front runners in that were people that have held office. One of them had held cabinet positions in two different governor offices. So his work is not done, as he'll have to go to November. And as you've so rightly said tonight, nobody wins an office tonight.
But some people have lost them.
And they have done that. We'll be back with more right after this.
Hi, I'm Taylor Howe with Lebanon Now, and we are delighted to be not only joined...
Art that's maybe lost
I thought that was a little video.
Some today, but the people that really listen to the everyday people and understand what it is they want, and can you deliver what it is they want. Don't make false promises if you can't make them. But I think the whole concept is just be what it is they want. You know, be who you are. You know, I tell people all the time, the worst mistake you'll ever make is trying to be somebody you're not. So if you're not the smartest guy in the room, don't try to be the smartest guy in the room. If you're not the prettiest guy around or a girl, don't try to be. You know, just be who you are and be fundamentally, so people will feed off of that and to say, hey, I like the guy because I think he's the real guy. You know, he's like me. And I think you strive to do that. And then I think one of the things I've always had confidence in, I never, ever believed anybody would outwork me. I mean, I just had that old basic roots of hard work, and I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to be the guy sitting at the breakfast table the next morning and say, I wish I would have done this, or we should have done this differently. I want to put everything on the table I can, and that's the way I approached every election, no matter who it was or how big the task was. We just campaigned hard, and I wanted to meet as many people as I could because I always thought if I could get to meet somebody and they could see who I was, it was much better than all the ads you can put on TV and everything. So we just worked hard at it.
So it's just a win or lose, you always were able to hang your head or hold your head high.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, my oldest brother told me one time, actually when I became governor, he said, little brother, I'm going to tell you one thing. He said, when you went up there, you had your head up. He says, when you come home, you make sure you still got that head up. And I never forgot those words he told me. And that's just kind of the way I approached every election. I wanted to do a good job, and I wanted to run hard. And I wanted people to have a belief in me that I was going to do the right thing if I had the opportunity. And that's what we strive for every time. And I think in today's world in politics, I think people are dependent way too much on money and consultants and advertising and all these other kind of ways to win. And I'm not saying they don't work, but I'm just saying I think people are hungry for a down-to-earth politician that's like them, that started with a little different beginning than being groomed to be a politician someday. And I think people are looking for that person, and I hope we all find it. I know I am. And I hope someday I find that, and I hope somebody like that ends up being the President of the United States.
Well, on that note, talking about what you're looking for, you had the unique opportunity of appointing several statewide office holders who were either reaffirmed by the voters when they went up on the ballot themselves, or they've moved on. We could start with Eric Schmidt, now U.S. Senator, but you had appointed him to Attorney General. Your next Attorney General appointment is now the Deputy Director of the FBI.
Correct.
So he has gone on to glorious things. Your Solicitor General is now the Solicitor General of the United States and on the short list for a Supreme Court nomination.
Yes.
As well as the other appointments that you made. So what Mike Parson is looking for in a leader actually was very important whenever you were in office.
Yeah.
But like you said, having your finger on the pulse that all these people were reaffirmed by the voters, what do you look for in a leader? You've said hard work, that you want someone who's going to go out there that's going to be a little bit different, it's going to be more like the people. But what are some of those characteristics as a person that you look for now that you're back in our shoes as a citizen voting?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any question. Picking those 5 elected officials and they got reaffirmed by the people was a good day, you know, and to see where their careers have gone. But I'm going to tell you the whole secret to why I picked the people I picked is called public service. Are you really got a servant's heart? are you really willing to sacrifice for other people? Not yourself, but for other people. And I think even some of the picks I made wasn't the most popular in the party ranks per se, but I just knew these people. I knew most all of them. And I didn't say I was the best friends of them. I didn't say I always agreed with everything they'd done, but I thought they would work hard and they would do what was best for Missouri and the people of the state. And I think when you do that, you think, okay, do you make the right decisions? But I'm going to tell you what, I didn't give it much of a second thought on every one I did. Once I did it and I said, this is my person, then that's who I was going to put in those positions. And I think they've all proven to be very successful in their own careers. But I also think I was smart enough to know I'm actually really building the future of the party in the state of Missouri. All of these gentlemen that was there will play a part in the future history of our state.
Yeah, and not just to single out the guys, you did appoint the first all or female majority of the Missouri Supreme Court, so it wasn't something that anybody could say anything about that in that direction either. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit now about your legacy because we're joined here again in the 57 Foundation. The 57 Foundation is your foundation that is meant to keep people in the workforce. Right. And we talked a little bit about that as we walked around and looked at the room. Why, after getting out of office, did you say, I don't want to be done with the good work, even if I am done with government?
Yeah, well, I think one of the priorities I always had was workforce development, with that and infrastructure, because I think that everything builds off those two things. And when I got out, you know, I had been very fortunate in my own career and in my own life, and I was in a position where I thought I could raise funds to help this foundation, and really that's what I set out to do. And of all the programs you have, all the state and federal programs, you know, and I know about every one of them, how they distribute money. And there's a lot of good programs for veterans, for disabled people, for different kinds of resources. But the one thing we don't do is we don't help the working class person that's out there every day trying to be a good model citizen, whether he's working in a grocery store, whether he's working in a convenience store, whether it's the waitress, whether it's somebody on that basic level jobs, or maybe a senior going back to work. All I want to do as a foundation is set up is to make sure they can go to work the next morning. So if the old car breaks down, then we're going to help them fix the car. If they need a little help with daycare, we're going to help them with daycare. So in today's world, daycare especially, a lot of grandparents watch the kids anymore, including me and Teresa do the same thing sometimes. But at some point, something happens to one of the grandparents and they can't do the daycare. So now you got to go buy it or for a few days until they get back to where they can. And I think those are the kind of people we want to try to help. Maybe it's a question, the refrigerator goes out, you know, the car insurance comes due, and something else happens in your life, which happens every day to all of us at some point. You know, maybe we're going to buy the refrigerator. Maybe we're going to help them make sure they got insurance on the car to go to work. But they have to have a job. They have to continue to maintain that job, first help, and we're one and done. We're going to help you one time, so don't come back to me every month and say, hey, we want this, we want that. It's just like, we want to make sure you get to work that day. And we've already been able to do that to several people, and it's a pretty good feeling to be able to do it. And you have to be referred. You can't get online and ask for it. Somebody in the community's got to say, hey, I know this person that needs a little help. So that's kind of how the foundation's set up. That's a quick version of it. But again, it is actually set up independent from me. I don't really have anything to do per se other than help them raise funds with it and just you know, just try to help people out a little bit. You know, I just feel like I still got some work to do, and it don't have to be in the government place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, in closing, Governor Parson, I want to talk just a little bit about the future of the state of Missouri. If you look around for reasons to have your head drooping, you're going to find some negative things.
Sure.
But if you look around for reasons to be hopeful, I think you'll find those too. And as governor, I'm sure you saw many of those reasons. So if you would kind of leave our viewers with some of those reasons that you saw as governor and you continue to see to be hopeful for the future of the state of Missouri.
Well, I think, number one, we're blessed to live in Missouri. Anytime you're in the middle of the United States, and I'll especially say Missouri, with the type of upbringing most of us have, the characteristics that we all have coming from the Midwest, I want to say, you know, I think faith plays a big role. I think family plays a big role. And then I think freedom plays a big role. I think all of those things are pretty well fundamental things that we have in this state. And I think by all means, whether you disagree on a lot of the hot button political issues, at the end of the day, most people believe the same. They want to enjoy life. They want to raise their families. They want a good education. They want to feel safe. And, you know, and I think that's what Missourians are all about. So I think what you got to figure out for the future in politics, it's got into such a divisive arena that somewhere along the way, that's got to stop. And I don't know how that's going to be, whether it's the federal level, or even the state level sometimes. But at some point, you got to govern. You know, the job when you go to Jeff City as a rep or a senator, as a statewide candidate, the first thing you should be feel humble that people give you the honor to be there. And then it's all about being a servant. You should be there to govern, not to run politics. I would say this all the time. 80% is political getting into office, and 20% maybe the work. But when you get in office, 80% should be about governing, and 20% should be about politics. And I think we've got that turned around so many times where everybody's trying to make a political stance. When at the end of the day, look at the things that we all agree on, regardless whether you're Democrat, Republican, you're St. Louis or Bolivar or Lebanon or wherever. What are the things you agree on and get them done? I mean, we basically built our whole administration on that attitude, and it works. I mean, we lowered taxes. We lowered the state income tax 6 times when I was governor. We had the lowest unemployment rate in our state's history. We had record revenues in the state of Missouri by basically just putting people first and putting the state first and not worrying how the politics shape out. You know, just do what it is people want. You know, we make it so difficult sometimes. So I hope the future, I hope somebody's going to go back and say, you know what, old Mike Parson did a pretty good job. You know, wouldn't hurt to go back to do some of those fundamental things that he did. And not everybody's going to like you when you're in politics. You got to understand that. But at the end of the day, is what did you get accomplished when you're in that arena? So if I was talking about the future of Missouri, anybody that goes up there, I would say, what is it you want to accomplish once you get there? It's not what you got there. Okay, you got it. You won the election. You're there. Now, what are you going to do? And I think that's the hard question to be. I've always said, however I voted, I wanted to have a recorded vote, whether it was popular or whether it wasn't. But I want people back home to know how I voted on different things, you know, to be able to do that. And if I can't go back home and explain why I voted for something, then I don't belong there. You know, you just don't. And I would say, if you can't be honest with yourself and be who you are, you're in the wrong business. And frankly, there's people up there that shouldn't be up there. You know, and I think that's up to us as the voters to make sure, just because somebody runs an ad and they say all these fancy things and they look all like professional, who are they really like, and are they really going to be who they are when they get up there? And I think that's what we got to look for. But look, there's a lot of good people out there. We just need to encourage good people to do the right thing and to be public servants. I go back to that every day. Just humble yourself to be a servant, and you can be successful up there.
All right. Well, Mike Parson, 57th Governor of the state of Missouri, thanks for joining us on Lebanon Now. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Taylor.
And thanks for staying with us at Lebanon Now. That was our interview with former Governor Mike Parson. We were so glad to be able to get some of his thoughts on leadership. We'll bring you some updated results for tonight. Of course, we've got Amendments 1 and 2 passing, Amendments 4 and 5, which is initiative petition reform, as well as tax reform, both soundly failing across the state. Jeff Brown coming out as the victor in the primary for the 142nd Representative District, and District 16, the Senate District, still being too close to call, with Hannah Kelly at 7,338, Don Mayhew at 4,342, Bill Hardwick at 8,147, and Philip Lohman at 898. We do have a call that we can make, which is Senate District 20, Lori Rook and Curtis Trent. Lori Rook at 14,997 and Curtis Trent at 13,455. We have 99% of the precincts reporting in that race, and so we are comfortable calling that with another massive upset tonight. A sitting senator, a leader in the Republican caucus, being fairly soundly defeated in his race to go back to Jeff City and continue representing the people of that district. We're still waiting for information out of Pulaski County, as that will very potentially be the deciding factor in our own Senate District 16. So as we wait for those results, we're on pins and needles. We're just... there's not much that we can do but wait. Again, I've said it before, just sort of scratching my head as to what we're waiting for out of those 5 precincts from the 121st district. But we have not even the absentee votes in to give us some kind of an indicator of where that's going to land.
Yeah, we've checked several methods of seeing if Pulaski County has put something out that we're not gathering up, and we're not finding anything that would indicate to us that they've got those votes out. I don't know if there's been an issue or why that seems to be such a problem of getting those votes in. It's 78% of the votes are in. And again, without knowing exactly what Pulaski County numbers are, you cannot call this race. Yeah. Bill Hardwick with 39% of the vote, Hannah Kelly with 35% of the vote. So the margin is very slim, and Pulaski County really tips the scale in this. And I almost find it odd too that Philip Lohman, who what I would call an outlier candidate that really did not go out campaign much, but typical of that, you're going to get some votes just because people will not. They want to vote for somebody they've never heard of, out of the political arena. That's one of those types of votes. And he's got 898 votes, and as this thing is going, that could be huge. Those votes that he took away from the main candidates,
he may end up being the bee in the bonnet of somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we were talking about with the race to replace Sandy Crawford, that was such a massive margin that really that Dr. Lentz, the professor from SBU, he didn't play that role. He garnered several votes, and even he and Brad Pollitt together did not put together the coalition that Sam Alexander was able to. Really astounding. I mean, all credit to Sam Alexander for putting that together.
And the rhetoric in both that race and the race with Curtis Trent and Lori Rook was who's the most conservative. And in fact, Alexander had one ad, I'm the most conservative candidate. And we heard that a lot as people started getting ads out and on Facebook of this race about who's the most conservative. And, it's that same thing a lot of times you see in areas that are heavy with agriculture is who had the most cows. And they're trying to really play to that audience. And of course, in Missouri, where 49% of the people vote Republican, 77 of the 49% consider themselves conservative. You have to really tout your conservatism. Yeah. And if you're going to win a race, and Pollitt had the backing of Sandy Crawford, who swings a big bat in this area. She did a wonderful job as our state senator and representative in this area, highly respected, but could not push him over the edge, at least in the race. I also, and if I'm right, Pollitt's from Sedalia, Pettis County, which is a large county.
Sure.
And so Alexander, credit to him that he was able to come up and what I consider a major upset in that race.
Talking about the battle between who is the most conservative, something we haven't even touched on tonight as far as all of the negative ads and a major issue in the state for a couple of years, and it's going to be a major issue continuing, is VLTs. And just exactly what type of conservative are you? Are you a freedom-loving conservative? Are you a traditional values conservative? Because those two things don't always butt heads. But when you talk about something like gambling, and I'm a free person, free to do what I want, and this is down home Missouri. Those two versions of conservatism really do butt heads. And so I'm kind of curious what role that issue played as something that wasn't on the ballot at all. Are those things being voted on through some of these candidates? Because you saw, again, in a lot of those attack ads, you saw major dollars in order to say this is the pro-gambling,
exactly.
This is the pro-gambling candidate. Is this who you want representing you?
Yeah, that's a good point. And as we go along, and we'll see how it plays out in November. But of course, one of the big issues that we continue to hear about was data centers, and what they will do at the Capitol regarding that. Don Mayhew called for a special session, and the governor just said he wasn't going to do that. And I'll be honest with you, as we now are in the point of analyzing some of this and giving political opinion, is that, that's one of those things that I consider grandstanding there in the middle of an election, to come out and say, I'm calling for a special session, which, by the way, costs the taxpayers money. And that was something that could have been handled in the legislature prior to this becoming such an issue. But data centers are going to be on everybody's dashboard, and that's going to be a talking point in going to November. It'll be interesting to see what the Democrats running for state office think about data centers, because we've not heard from them regarding that. So that's going to be a big issue. Another issue that is starting to really get a lot of legs are the flock cameras. Oh my gosh. So that is another issue. At least you see that being an issue in social media. Now, again, not everybody that has an opinion, not everybody that's a voter expresses their opinion on social media. So sometimes you get a skew of what really is on the mind of people if you just pay attention to that. But if you really look at that, those are two issues that I think people are going to have to deal with. And of course, the major issue that everybody's going to have to talk about or deal with is going to be whether or not we have an update here in a minute we'll get to, but is whether or not we have the budget issues and how that'll be taken care of. So we do have District 16. I think we are to a point we can call it.
Okay, we're getting a graphic put together for you with some updated numbers on Senate District 16, but we are at a point where we feel comfortable calling that. We'll do a quick recap as we get that put together, but Amendment 1 and 2 both passing. That's the conservation tax, as well as the Jackson County Assessor's Office being established. 4 and 5 being initiative petition reform, and the elimination of the income tax. And then, of course, for District 142, Jeff Brown is going to be the Republican nominee. For District 16, we're getting some new numbers coming in, and we'll get those to you in. There we go. Hannah Kelly with 7,865. Don Mayhew at 5,659. Bill Hardwick pulling a hard lead there with 11,030, and Philip Lohman with 1,034. 99% of precincts reporting. We're going to go ahead and call that for Representative Bill Hardwick. He is going to win and be the Republican nominee for State Senate District 16, which of course includes Laclede County. David, we've seen all of these candidates in Laclede County. We've seen them pulling hard here in the last week. We've seen Bill Hardwick with an endorsement from former Representative Susie Pollock. And we're now at the point, again, where we can call this for Bill Hardwick, and he will most likely be our state senator.
And the big winners in Laclede County would be Jeff Brown and Bill Hardwick. Don't forget, we will wrap things up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with Millsap in the Morning. We'll be here. Taylor will join me. We'll talk about what we saw tonight and the election results, not only locally but also statewide, and we'll talk about that tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Millsap in the Morning. For Taylor Howe, I'm David Millsap. For all of our folks that helped us behind the scenes, Sarah Hampton and Ryan Shear here on Lebanon Now, good night, everybody.
Good night.